Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream / recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, June 26th. The Steam summer sale happened and we'll be talking about it. I do want to start off by saying, in my recording of the Steam summer sale special video, which has gotten 80 views, which is quite high for my YouTube channel, I totally forgot about the live chat, so it wasn't until several hours later that I was able to look at the page and see the last few messages of live chat. There probably had been more messages of live chat, and certainly there was no way for me to respond to them. It simply just slipped my mind in the process of kind of setting up and understanding what I was going to do. I don't think the recording would have been any different. Honestly, I probably would have just put a comment saying that it was a special recording, and for that reason I wasn't going to be looking at the live chat. But I didn't even bother to do that much. Now, arguably, maybe I am getting de-circulated on YouTube because I'm putting in that initial message in the chat. Maybe that looks too much like just trying to signal boost my own videos, and that's circulating, I guess. There's a different phrase, but I can't think of it right now. Maybe this is hurting my channel, so it may be going forward that I won't put an initial post in the live chat, maybe. As for today, we'll talk about the Steam summer sale, which in a weird way I'm kind of already done with it. Like there's very little that needs to be done now, and I guess I'm gonna be playing mage class cards and 2 victories with the Shaman and Warlock and the Tavern Brawl today. We're starting late today because my Monday performance showed that it's really not a good position that I was in to. I'm having this whole, let's see, just complete my deck, just complete it myself. Yes, I want deck helper. Yeah, suffering insomnia and trying to record early in the morning right before I'm about to fall asleep doesn't work. It's way better for me to, even if I'm awake at 6 in the morning, to just ride out that insomnia, fall asleep at 8, 9, 10 in the morning, and then come back and stream at 6 p.m. So it probably has a lot to do with the summer in general, and just temperatures and when how much sunshine comes in a day. But yeah, it feels like in the summer, if I'm not going to hit that 3 or 4 p.m. time slot that I'm generally trying to hit, I'm going to focus more on doing later streams. Even though I know that most people probably would prefer earlier streams, I'm just not, with my insomnia, I'm not equipped to do that. So yeah, Monday was a pretty bad stream. We still are in the post E3 position where there really isn't a lot of things to talk about, which is, I guess, alright. Let's go ahead and hit that, and then hit that, and that way he doesn't have any mechs on the field in case he's playing a mech deck. So it looks like this weekly Tavern Brawl is just that one player is going to take 2 turns, and then the next player is going to take 2 turns, which just effectively doubles your mana crystals. So we played this, and then do this. for 3. And then take our extra turn. And then... Where do we want to go with this? I guess we just play this. And...
Heating up.
do that. So, as far as the Steam Summer Sale, they did a very surprising thing. They have zero focus on trading cards at all. You do not get trading cards when you spend $1, $10, or however much it was. I think it was you got 1 trading card drop for every $10 you spent, which really put you in this position where you had to pick a pretty high amount of money to spend on games. Now they've adopted what I think is overall a appreciate what you already have mentality that they were doing with spring cleaning. So clearly you can see how the spring cleaning event was an experiment in this idea. Although I don't know if Valve would have been fast enough to pivot to a different idea or concept if spring cleaning had not been well received. The way it works is they've given you a list of games that you own that they want you to play, and they want you to do very specific things that they can track, not just like achievement things, but specific trackable quests or actions. So I'm getting into quests, like Hearthstone I guess has quests for this summer sale, and I don't think this is going to be a permanent thing. Oops, I should have attacked. And after you do these quests, you'll get points, and these points can be used in this Grand Prix race where you can either speed up the team you've selected to be on or slow down another team. Now, inherently, of the teams to pick, they were animal teams. So there's a tortoise, a hare, a cockatrice, a corgi, and something else. Tortoise, hare, cockatrice, corgi. And I can't even think of what the other animal is, but I know it's not a cat. But the main thing there is because the corgi was one of the options, the internet is a sucker for cats and dogs. There is no cat, so everybody chose the corgi. So by far, like 3 or 4 times, the number of people seem to have joined the corgi team. And by far, the corgi team is going to be the first place winner in these different daily races. That doesn't particularly work out well, though, for the concept. And it does not work particularly well for the people who have chosen to be on Team Corgi, because a random selection of the top 3 groups are going to is going to receive a random games off their... I don't think it's even random. I think it's your top ranked game off your wish list. Up to 3 top ranked games off your wish list. So you're in this very interesting position where if you had chosen Team Corgi stupidly, you will be getting odds out of I guess I'm making up these numbers, but I'm guessing 1 out of 50,000 odds that you will be the random person selected to win a free game. Whereas if you'd chosen Team Tortoise, which is the current secondary team, your odds of winning a free game might only be 1 in 10,000. Now, 1 in 10,000 doesn't sound like a lot until you recognize that odds are always sucky in any kind of lottery, and effectively this is a raffle slash lottery. So I read the instructions in the live stream and thought it through, and I go, oh yeah, I should join the second tier. And the person in second place was Team Tortoise. That is so far working exactly as planned. Should have played that first. But yeah, that is working exactly as planned so far. Now, the other things you can do besides playing the free games or playing games that you already own, which is another option, there's another option to play old games that have achievements. And so I just finished playing Doom 2016, and yeah, since Monday I haven't played any other game, but that's not super surprising since I spent all day shopping on the Steam sale. So yeah, you could play old games with achievements. Now, for me, getting these speedometer points, which is, I think, not what they're really called, but it's a close enough description. Jeez, am I really going to lose here? I thought I was going to win. I guess having 2 turns can really ruin something like that. Maybe I should have played this. Probably should have, in retrospect. Let's try that again. So, I just played Doom 2016 and gotten a decent amount of achievements out of that, and that gave me about 3,000 points. These points you use to speed up your team or slow down an opponent. How you can use it to slow down an opponent or speed up your team still doesn't really make 100% sense to me. It seems like sometimes the website will let you slow down an opponent and sometimes it won't, and it seems like it has something to do with how much you speeded up your team in the first place. So there's probably some math in there that might be changing some things, but yeah, I don't have a full grasp on all of that. So I got about 3,000 speedometer points because I had played Doom 2016. So then last night I launched Time Clickers, which is the clicker game that I've been running forever and ever, and I have almost all the achievements on it. There's one that it seems like it's pretty much impossible to get, which is the final one. And I don't play a lot. So I ran Time Clickers, which I hadn't played in a long time, and certainly I haven't gotten an achievement for that game in a long time. And surprise, surprise, today it said, yes, you've got another, I think, 8,000 speedometer points. Now there is something about how many of those speedometer points you can redeem based on how much you've spent. I've already spent about $120 on Steam. That's all I'm really planning on spending. Frankly, I think because I'm trying to save up for Amazon Prime Day and maybe buying a new video card. And honestly, as I was going through the wish list, there's just a lot of adult games and a lot of niche Japanese games and a lot of things that really are not on the horizon of something I could easily cover on my YouTube channel, or not really on the horizon of something that I want to play recently. A lot of the adult games I want to own just to support the industry, and if I'm going down that route, that's more of a ask people to support my channel by gifting me these games, not spending my own money on it situation. And there is a decent number of games that just don't go on sale. The sales were pretty decent, but not great. A lot of games were just 50% off. There's really no competition. I said it several times in the video. It's just like, you can see there's no competition because you have something that's 50% off for $9.99 that looks like a AAA game, and then you have something that looks like an indie game that's a little bit overpriced at $9.99 at 50% off. And there's nothing at $9.98 because there really is no comparison, and there's no no competition in the sense that if you want to buy Doom 2016, you're not going to go buy a Lego game even if they are the exact same price. That's not a fair comparison by any means. I guess we'll just do this. So I've launched all the games I've installed for tomorrow that have achievements, and I'm hoping that will give me a bunch of points where I could push Team Tortoise to make sure it's still kind of in second place, although there really is no reason now after the first day to not push it all the way to the first place, because I imagine the vast majority of people who would have joined and picked a team for the entire run of this sell, which is about 3 or 4 days, I imagine the vast majority is already locked into Team Corgi. So if we powerhoused and made it to first place in all the remaining days, that would still probably work perfectly fine. So in theory, I guess I might spend the rest of today installing old games that have achievements, installing them and then running them for just a minute, which I hope is enough time. I'm not 100% sure on that. And then installing the next game with any achievements that I've accomplished. The problem with that inherently is that I am going to waste a bunch of time doing that, and it's going to waste a bunch of bandwidth, and I have over 100 games, easily over 100 games. I wouldn't be surprised if it's over 300 games where I've gotten achievements on that game. So and it's not particularly even easy to go to your profile and find the list of games you've gotten achievements on. So I'm basically gonna have to go all through my now 1,200 plus games and say, have I gotten achievements on this? If so, install. Have I gotten achievements on this? If so, install. I'm not even sure I can actually install and run all of those games in time. But the other thing you can do after you get these points is you get a kind of equivalent amount of a secondary currency. I guess we'll play Shaman or Warlock here. And we're going to hold on to classic packs because they're releasing new classic packs. So that's something. Ooh, if I start losing a lot, I'm going to bail out to casual. Since I'm at rank 14 and I'd like to end this month at rank 14, that would be nice. So, yeah, you get these secondary points that you can use at the Pit Stop website. And what you can buy at the Pit Stop website is very different than what you were getting. Instead of getting trading cards and then trying to trade and spend a bunch of money to get complete collections of the trading cards to make a badge, you just buy a badge. A badge is 100 points for one level, and you can level it up as much as you want. I'm at a level 117 already, which is pushing my profile level up by one level for every 1,000 points. So I believe badge level 117 equals something close to 1,170 points as far as your character level. This is a complicated system, certainly. What this feels like is that they're going to get away from trading cards, which would make a lot of sense, because the last thing you kind of want is the stink of loot boxes on you, and trading cards have been loot boxes from the get-go. They've just not been so obnoxious, or particularly integrated into games obnoxiously on Steam. So it seems like they're getting away from that. It seems like, to me, this potentially might be the end of trading cards in general, and the end of having a limit on the number of players you can have at a player level. These things, I imagine, aren't going to disappear completely, but instead will go into a maintenance mode of some sort, and we will just stop seeing any sales that have any trading cards, and you'll get badges directly. The other things you can do with your pit stop points, for 15,000, take to notice the difference there. 15,000 is not a lot, but it would be, I think I calculated it to, it would be the equivalent of having a $150 worth of purchases on Steam to get that much points. If you spend $150 to get 15,000 pit stop points, you could get $5 off your next purchase. That seems exactly in line with the way things used to sometimes work. That doesn't seem like it's new or a better deal by any means.
Sharing a storm.
Alright, let's do this. And let's do this. 2 1-1s with rush. I don't think I can do that right now because I don't have enough room. There are other ways to get pit stop points other than buying games, as in getting achievements. So it would be ways you could get $5 off your next purchase, but it certainly is not a great coupon. And then the only other things you can buy are backgrounds that you can't trade ever. They've already said that. And emoticons that you can't trade over in the chat that nobody uses, to my knowledge. So this puts you in this great position where you don't have to get those backgrounds if you don't want them. You don't have to get the emoticons if you don't want them. If you can just focus on the badge. It's way easier to get badges, or you can just focus on points. Also, if you have any leftover 2019 Lunar New Year tokens, you can convert those into odometer points also, and you probably should. So what this seems to imply is there will be a major lack of focus on the Steam Marketplace going forward as far as trading cards. I think that might actually be a great move. If you think the process through if all new games, big and small, just were refused access to Steam trading cards, and just old games were allowed to get trading cards, but it got down to the point where you couldn't even trade the trading cards, and they started just saying, we're going to phase out this, everybody's going to get booster packs, and you can open the booster packs, and if you get extras, you can turn them into gems. I imagine it would be easier than even doing booster packs to just say, we're going to, instead of that, we're going to just convert all of your unfinished badges into badges and finish the whole thing. And there's definitely some different ways, some ways that would irritate people and some ways that would be less likely to irritate people. But yeah, there's, I think, definitely a situation here where that they might be getting away from the marketplace. Now, the Steam marketplace, I suspect. Oops. Well, there I lost. There goes a star. So let's go over to casual. I suspect the Steam marketplace would still stick around for trading in-game items and skins like Counter-Strike Go. I don't think Valve can get rid of that moneymaker for Counter-Strike Go skins. But I think they could certainly back down on the secondary effect of that and get away from the trading cards. And between Counter-Strike Go skins and trading cards, those are the two things really that anybody ever uses the marketplace for. Now, I could be wrong about all of this, and this could just be that somebody had a different idea and they wanted to try something different. What you do notice about the summer sale is it doesn't feel like it's particularly big, and it doesn't feel like it's particularly a great amount of discounts, as it hasn't been for the past couple years. But it does feel a little different. There is the Grand Prix game, but the Grand Prix game is not some mini game clicker game as we've seen before. It's instead a just kind of strategy game that requires a small amount of information, of time and energy to be put in it. The biggest part about the game and what they're focusing on the Grand Prix minigame is that they want you to play a small selection of games that are free and you've never played, and a small selection of games you've owned and that you haven't played, I guess, in a while or possibly ever. So, yeah, I don't think there's too much more to say about the Steam Summer Sale. I was lucky in my timing, and I was kind of late even to covering it with my YouTube video, and it got 80 views, and maybe it'll get even a little bit more. I'm continuing down the process of trying to get people to support my channel by gifting games. Somebody did friend me, but they didn't gift a game yet, so maybe they'll get back around to that. Now is definitely the time that if you ever want to support my YouTube channel, this is the time to friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list, or gift me a gift card, or gift me just a game you'd like to see me cover. I don't think a lot to say about what I chose to purchase. A lot of it was last chance stuff. Games like the game Echo, which that company's out of business, so I imagine if I don't buy it now, even though it's overpriced, I might not ever be able to buy it. And there were a few other games that kind of had that same feeling. when I was shopping, I got a shopping list up to about $200, and then I went through some painful choice making. Frankly, it was a little bit more painful this time than it had been in previous years to go, well, actually I'd like that game for $9, I'd like that game for $10, I'd like that game for $10, but then there's just too many games that are for $10. And a lot of my wish list that I was looking at was AA games, AAA games at $10, less games that are just 49 cents, which is really where my focus was going. I could have bought some more Assassin's Creed games, but none of them are really discounted, and we're really having a bit of a slowdown in covering the Assassin's Creed games, and it's hard to justify buying the like Assassin's Creed 3 remaster, particularly since that game is mostly negative. There was even about 3 games that I went through the wish list and removed. 60 parsecs, for instance, after playing 60 seconds. I have no desire to play 60 parsecs, which is the spiritual successor, since I didn't like the first game. There weren't, I think maybe I got 1 Lego game below $10, but then there was like 3 that were $15 with also Season Pass and DLC. A lot of the things, as I'm moving further and further into more recent games, are having that issue of being games that look like they're $10, but really they're $30 once you buy the Season Pass. Like, I wanted to get Galgun Double Piece, the first Galgun game, but it's hard to justify buying that game when there's $100 worth of DLC on top of that. There really needs to be an Ultimate Edition, and it's kind of unlikely there ever will be an Ultimate Edition. So that's a thing. Also, if I was to buy Galgun, I don't think I could probably cover that on YouTube. Part of my fear is that somehow I'm going to figure out how to do some things right on YouTube, get enough subscribers, get over 1,000 subscribers, and then they're going to look at what I've been doing since I was kicked out of the YouTube program, or just look at what I've been doing since I started my channel and say, well, our rules have changed and you're not YouTube family friendly enough. And that's kind of ridiculous because I really don't do too much. When we stream here, this is kind of an adult stream. We look at adult games. We'll talk about adult news, yes, but I don't think I'm getting too out of the realm of what should be allowed on YouTube. Maybe my perspective is jaded and shifted in that case. But who knows? And that would be one of the ultimate kick in the nards scenario, is if after succeeding, YouTube pulls the rug out from under me again and goes, nope, actually, you don't count. We're not going to let you in because you covered Honey Pop and censored it like 2 years ago. Or if they came back and said, well, you've got to private all these videos. I don't think they'd even do that much. I think it would be a quick either pass or fail, and then they'd give no feedback, and then I'd just be up in the air questioning what I did wrong. Which is the worst situation to ever be in, is when somebody says you're not good enough and then fails to give any kind of feedback. But YouTube is still the only game in town, at least for the moment. It would be nice if they weren't. But I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. Let's start covering the other news. We do have a decent amount of games because we had some left over, but the types of games and the number of games coming out right now, since E3 was just a week or two ago, and since the Steam Summer Sale is happening right now, it doesn't surprise me by much that there's not great quality content as far as games that are being released. So the first game we have to look at today is the Panel DC, which looks like it's moving rather slowly. Looks like it's a dark screenshot syndrome style game where it's keep talking and nobody explodes, done in 2D. Couple years since keep talking and nobody explodes happens. Apparently it's probably something closer to a puzzle game where you're adjusting a circuit panel or something. This is $1.99. It doesn't seem like it's got enough gameplay in it to really be that interesting. I think you'd play it once and then get bored. 20 achievements. Now the focus that you can have the idea and the focus that you can have achievements still, and that the summer sale is going to build around the achievements, is a slightly interesting concept, that they're not going to deprecate achievements. And that certainly makes a lot of sense, because there's no way that Steam could deprecate achievements and it's not also just look like it's missing a feature, because Xbox and PlayStation can never really deprecate achievements. At best, the only people that can get away from achievements are Nintendo, who never implemented them before. And I guess Google Stadia might not try to compete in that factor, but I imagine since they're already making them for those type of games, there's no reason that that's not the case. I guess we could kind of show off the Steam Grand Prix Summer Sale. The front page is just highlighting games on my wish list, featuring them, and then highlighting more games. They're not really doing anything. And then they have these new storefront artistic design they're trying out. What we didn't get was an update to the library. I thought the library update would have come during the summer sale. And it's just kind of like a solid color gradient, and it's 2 categories, and then some more featured games, and then they've made these very generic art things that frankly don't look polished or good enough to be on Steam. The black background makes me suspect that they're getting rid of the blue background on Steam. Perfectly fine with that. The blue background is pretty old and dated. There's some top sellers here. There was like a top seller adult game that I saw yesterday, and I'm like, what is that? Popular new releases. Here we go. Monster Girl Island is under the popular new releases. So that's just the front page. Probably could have tried to win there, and if I'd moved faster. And then you just click on this to get into the Grand Prix, and here you have the corgi in front, and it's corgi, tortoise second, cockatiel third, hare fourth, pig fifth. And compared to yesterday, the corgi is actually way less ahead than it is the others. But you can see the boost for the Team Corgi is 2,348, whereas the boost for the second tortoise is 994.3 times. So everybody picked a dog, and that means they're going to be in a much lesser pool. There will be some random people selected that will win free games on Team Corgi, don't get me wrong, but your odds personally of winning will be way higher with Tortoise. So you get these boost points, you can spend them here or to attack other teams at a certain point. So since Team Corgi is always going to be ahead, they're going to get attacked way faster and way more often. Only a few smarter people who are in like third place would attack the second place person, because this really is just a race for second place at this point. And you can see I've done way more than this one person who I've friended, so he's not played as many games or gotten many achievements, and they want you to play. They want me to play each of these games that I own and do these specific actions, which I simply do not have time to do. Interesting. And then they also want me to play this game that I don't have, that I guess is free. I assume these are free to play games and you don't have to buy them. Although I kind of question that. So maybe they're specifically promoting these games and saying buy these games and do that. But yeah, I don't have time to play any of these games either, and I am fairly certain I don't own any of them. And what they're asking you to do maybe is really easy, maybe it's not, but they're only giving you like 10 points each. So you maybe do it over and over again, or just play old games that you've achieved. And there's I got a bunch from Doom. I got like 3,000 from that, and I got a bunch from the other. And you can see, well, Corgi has 1 win and 1 podium finish, so first, second, or third, which gives him 3 points. Tortoise has 0 wins for yesterday's race, but 1 podium finish, which gives him 2 points. And Cockatiel only has 1 point, the other 2 don't have any. So yeah, it's kind of a complicated, because the numbers are confusing the issue, but simplistic game that really doesn't require you to do anything other than play video games, which as a PC gamer you might have done anyways. You can go over here to the pit stop subpage and you get these tokens, and you can level up your Grand Prix. So one level is 100 tokens, 10 levels is 1,000 tokens, 5 levels is 500 tokens. So that's a simple calculation, nothing different. And so this is really where you just want to throw everything. My current level is 119. I can go to 120. Did that work? I don't know. Or you can save up to 15,000 tokens to get $5 off in your next purchase. Or you can spend 1,000 tokens on these unsellable, untradeable backgrounds that nobody cares about. And I think they're going to find out very quickly that is the case, and these emoticons that nobody cares about. And that's really all you can do with them. They're not going to translate, I think, to anything else. The token balance that you have left over very possibly will be tradable for the next sale, which the next big sale I imagine will be the next big sale I imagine will be the Halloween sale, fall sale maybe. You're not, I think, going to be running into anything before then, so it's 6 months till Christmas. That would make it 4 months till October. So I think you're going to have at least 4 months before you see any kind of decent sale on Steam. Frankly, if you're shopping a lot, you have a different sale at different stores all over the place. It's really not until the 15th of next month that Amazon Prime Day happens, and there might be some sales on buying video games for that too, and certainly other kinds of sales happen at different times throughout the year for other kinds of things. If you're trying to run your entire life, if you need to buy a mattress or a washer and dryer or do home repair or something like that, there's different times throughout the entire year when that makes more sense. So yeah, I think this might be the beginning of something different for the Steam sales. In the end, the thing that I could do to best support my channel, but I can't afford to do, would be to not buy any old games and instead save up money and maybe beg people to gift me money through either Patreon or Steam gift cards, so I could buy games day one, like pre-order games, buy them day one. Let's try Zoo Warlock. And by covering games day one, the hour they're available to play, then I would have a lot more relevancy in my videos, and a lot more people randomly would find my videos. Speaking of finding videos, YouTube is changing its suggestions page feed, so now you can actually hide entire channels, which is nice. They're also putting like gray boxes telling you why they're suggesting things. Anything YouTube honestly does to try to improve their system and their suggestions, it's sort of appreciated, depending on whether or not they are also trying to integrate some crazy SJW mentality in it. There was a piece that came out by a questionable source talking with Google employees, talking about how they have this machine learning fairness program where they are specifically programming the machine learning elements to push specific agendas. So their example was, if you type in CEO in Google image search, even though well over 90% of all CEOs in the real world are male, they're going to make sure that there's at least a few female CEO images that come up. Or I saw another example that they were looking at, and it's like, if you type in "can men" in an incognito mode browser into Google, it'll say, "Can men have babies? Can men get pregnant?" And it's like, no, not really. Not biologically speaking, when you're talking about gender, male and female, the answer is no. And frankly, I don't think someone has probably fully transitioned if they're calling themselves a man and they can still get pregnant. And that really shouldn't be anywhere close to controversial statement. So yeah, we know Google is, and YouTube though, it is full of insane people that are doing insane SJW things, and that is the poison inside of the entire company. And I don't know how you really fix it, short of firing almost anybody and everybody, which really might be what needs to happen. Moving on though, because I don't want to get into any kind of rant. Gamatsu has an article here. Earth Defense Force 4.1, the Wing Diver, the Shooter, free DLC training mode is now available. Weird to get free DLC that is a training mode. Earth Defense games historically not been as polished as they should be for as long running as the series is, and for as much as this series has some popularity. The flying around in mechas and shooting giant insects game series deserves better treatment than it gets. It's all, I believe, from the same company that makes it too, so I kind of don't know what else you can do or improve upon on that.
Give that minion a turn to get
Double
ready.
time and double pay.
So now I have two things that have rush.
No breaks. Double time and double pay.
Get in there and fight, maggot!
No breaks.
There we go. That was more complicated than it probably should have been. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam here called Nightmare, which looks like a top-down twin-stick shooter. From what I can see, it looks like it's also clearly a dark screenshot syndrome. Terrible game that it seems like they're selling it on the factor that it's probably an asset flip game, that you can't see that it's an asset flip game because it's going to be in the dark except for when you're firing. This is horribly ugly. Just looking at blackness. Selling it for 84 cents. English only. Yeah, right. And yeah, unfortunately, that's really going to be I think the totality of the majority of games that come out. Alright, let's do this.
My shield for Argus!
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. A new Utaware Rumono title has been announced. There was this teaser website that was showing a silhouette, and the silhouette finally filled in for these two characters. There's something about this character wearing a mask in previous games, and now they've gotten rid of all but like half of the side of his face, so a quarter mask.
So many possibilities.
Here you can kind of see it here, a mask that's not really showing anything, so clearly this is a character who's had a mask up until this point, and they just wanted to honor the tradition without actually using it, which makes a lot of sense too. Is like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to have a character wear a mask in video games when you have the technology to show off characters' faces better, whether it's 3D animation or 2D animation. And then there's this other character. So there's a teaser trailer here. I'm not sure what kind of game this is though. I have no idea. So unless Utaware Ramono is its own genre-defining style game, I don't have a clue what the gameplay really is. This looks like this might be a visual novel, but I'm not sure. Be kind of weird to see two characters with swords and see that high action imagery of birds flying and then have that turn into just a visual novel. And then characters with swords or sword-like objects.
Almost out of time.
moving on, I guess. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Uber Cold, which looks like it's a asset flip game of something like Super Hot. It's a joke clone of Super Hot, basically. Instead of Super Hot, it's Uber Cold, which I'm not sure if that's proper German. I don't know if anybody would go Uber Cold. It's a free game, I guess, in English only, but yeah, there's nothing here to talk about to speak on.
Flesh fails. Try crystal.
This was not in my contract.
Let's see. Next game we have on Steam is called First Customer, which looks like a first-person shooter asset flip game. Yeah, does not look like there's anything here special at all. $2.24 discounted. Says it supports a bunch of subtitles for a bunch of languages. I question that. Again, a game not making it to the fall list. I imagine we might run into very few games that actually make it into the fall list today. And more, it is really running into a scenario here like this game, which is a visual novel tagged with sexual content. Ninja Girl and the Mysterious Army of the Urban Legend Monsters Hunt the Headless Horseman. This is from Sakai Project. It's $14.39. It's got full Japanese audio, English, and traditional Chinese. Otherwise, this is a game that I guess I have to put on the fall list. More and more of these visual novels are seeping their way into the fall list and possibly even into the totality of the wish list in general. And a lot of that really just comes down to wanting to support the industry more than me personally ever having the time to play these games. Because, let's face it, visual novels are long, and they do have a tendency to not be family friendly. So, heck though, maybe my channel would get really popular, and maybe I would spin off. I don't know if I'd ever really want to do this, but maybe I would hire a secondary content creator who would play the games and come in and make the secondary video. I think, frankly, though, I've seen so many YouTube channels do that, where it starts off as, oh, this is a YouTube channel for this person, and then they bring in their girlfriend, or this female, usually, or another guy. Let's just go with another guy in this instance. Somebody else comes in. Geek and Sundry is a great example of that. They started off as, oh, this is going to be Will Wheaton doing his tabletop show, and the redheaded lady, I can't even remember her name, doing several shows, and then that was pretty much all it was going to be around those two celebrities. And now Geek and Sundry, in comparison, is nobody. Will Wheaton maybe comes back if his tabletop show gets kickstarted, but it's a whole collection of different people. Even College Humor, which is cycled through many characters, is apparently added a couple new characters and potentially shifted out a couple of other characters. So yeah, it wouldn't really feel right to me, I think, to add a new person unless it's something where they were talking directly to me, I guess maybe that would work. But then that becomes like a giant bomb podcast. Maybe that would work if there was something like that. Maybe there's a collaboration that could happen where I would gift visual novels to this person that I collabed with, and they played the visual novels on their channel. Their channel was always demonetized because of that. They came back and they told me how the games were. Or maybe I can just figure out a different way to play those kinds of games, so it's quick. Or maybe I'll just do a bunch of spotlights on them and play the first 30 minutes and that would be it. Because frankly, if what you see in the first 30 minutes of a visual novel is probably what you're going to see for the rest of the game. So there is something around that concept. As I'm just thinking it through, I definitely need some feedback, and I definitely need more visual novels. Right now, I'm still thinking Clannad deserves to be covered like any other game. Steins Gate deserves to be covered like any other game. I believe I bought the first of a long-running series of the When They Cry series. I know there's another word there, but I can't remember what it is. After a certain point, in particular if they're just adult visual novels and romance visual novels without any major relevancy or importance, those could probably just be spotlighted. Or just not covered at all. Moving on though, that's just the seedling of a thought that I certainly haven't thought through. The next game we have is Un Pass Fragile. So, the Fragile Pass. This looks like it's a frog that's into ballet in some kind of what I would guess is a simplistic point-and-click adventure game. It's $1.99, and it says it's English only, but I kind of question that. I kind of like the art style. This is almost like an admins that you can't really draw things that look like regular games, so let's just draw things that look kind of like a sketch drawing or a comic strip. This looks like this is an indie game. Probably isn't that long. It isn't that expensive. I could see this going on the fall list. It would be kind of a great example of the types of games that you don't see too often. So I'll put that on the follow list and see how it gets as far as reviews. Next we have a game on Steam called Pirates of the First Star, which looks like it's a combination of several different gameplay mechanics. Speaking of gameplay mechanics, I thought about buying Tabletop Simulator, and then just in trying not to spend too much money, passed on it. My fear is that if I bought Tabletop Simulator, I would have very little I could do with it as a single player without anybody else connecting to it. My fear for this game is this is just not animated very well, and it's going in so many random directions that it can't possibly be a good game. $14.99 English only. I think maybe for a laugh I'll put this on the follow list, but yeah, that would be the only reason, is to see if this somehow succeeded with these terrible graphics. And yeah, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't put things on the follow list just as a joke. So I'm just gonna take it and not do that, you know.
Shall we make a storm?
Next we have a game on Steam called Rummy 3D Premium, which is, I assume, Gin Rummy. Although, this seems like a weird way to play Gin Rummy. I guess this is playing as a group of people playing Rummy. Maybe there's a difference between Rummy and Gin Rummy. There might be. I think most people probably know how to play Gin Rummy, and Rummy is more of a score-based type game. $5.99 discounted, and English and German. I kind of want to give this one a chance and put it on the fall list. I'm probably being way too generous here, but the fact is, Rummy, as what I'm seeing here, is a kind of complicated game. And if you were to try to just play this in Tabletop Simulator, I don't think it would spend the extra effort to explain to explain where how the game is played. Whereas I would hope Rummy 3D Premium might do that. $5.99 might be a little expensive for this game, but not too much. Here's an interesting story from Gamasutra. Valve launches a VR Portal spin-off, Aperture Hand Lab. Update an earlier version of the story mistakenly refers to Aperture Hand Lab as the flagship title Valve teased alongside Valve Index reveal and has since been corrected. So, in the Steam Summer Sale, there has been really no indication whatsoever that this is that VR is any focus at all. There's no highlight or promotion of the Valve Index. It's not on the front page. There's no highlight or promotion of this game. Aperture Hand Lab. Maybe they know I don't have a Valve Index, and that's why I'm not seeing that. But to announce this game and have it in no way tie into the summer sale shows that they are not particularly hot or excited to try and sell their $1,000 Valve Index set. This was developed, it says, by Valve and Cloudhead Games, which makes sense. Valve can't finish anything by themselves. It's a VR-based spin-off of Portal series intended to teach VR newbies the ins and outs of the Index's offering. So it's a demo. The company took a similar approach to their short Portal-themed VR game, The Lab, which launched aside the HTC Vive, which that collaboration clearly fell apart. The VR title can be played by any Steam VR compatible headset, including the Valve Index. It doesn't seem like there's any kind of price being mentioned here. So that doesn't seem like an amazingly great announcement for a new thing. Now, Valve promised that three games were coming out, I think, in 2019. It was a while ago. So there's one of the 3 games that Gabe Newell promised. 3 VR games, or 3 games in general. I don't even remember what the promise was. Tyler McVickerson of Valve News Network would probably be able to cover that a lot better. But it really does set the pace and go to show that if Valve is going to have even one major game that comes out and is a big success, it will just be one, and that's it. And I don't think that's going to be Dota Underlords, which I hear takes just like way too long to play. I was thinking about installing it and maybe trying it, but if from what it sounds like, it's 40 minutes a game. Count me out. So yeah, that's not realistic. I'm gonna lose if I can't figure out a way to get through this and do a massive amount of damage. Yeah. What Valve really needs to do, and it probably wouldn't be a bad idea, is if they started doing the Microsoft trick and just buying out companies. And buying out companies, not integrating them into the management style that Valve has, but just saying, we're going to own a percentage of this company. And if they had bought out like Double Fine, as David said, we're just going to own Double Fine, and you're going to run your business the way it's still being run. And eventually, if Valve purchased 20 or 30 companies like that, there'd be more employees at Valve-owned corporations making games and actually finishing games than there would be the, for lack of a better term, the yahoos that are actually inside of Valve proper, and they could just slowly either move those people out of working at Valve proper until it's just this parent holding company, or they could lay off people at Valve in favor of owning other companies that are more corporately structured. The problem with that idea, though, while that is I think a pretty decent thought, is I think the board of Valve, who actually owns Valve, which is in part Gabe Newell, and I think in part other people just who have been given a lot of stock options in Valve, I think they actually, for some crazy reason, do believe in the way they run their business. I think, in particular, Gabe Newell, if you just focus it on him, he's sitting around doing nothing all day, so he can't really make the desire, or have the desire even in his own head, that it's not acceptable to sit around and play Dota all day and do no real work. So he can't really say that to other employees. And I wouldn't be surprised if Gabe Newell is diagnosable PTSD or depressed from his experience of working at Microsoft when he worked at Microsoft, which Microsoft still has a lot of problems in its corporate structure, but it's, I don't think, anywhere as bad as it was when he was working there. And I can relate to that, but I can also see that isn't the way to do things. And then see, every time I played this, though, it would go up, so I don't think that would work. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. World War Z is top 700,000 sales on the Epic Games Store. Is World War Z an Epic Games Store exclusive? Yeah, it is. So 700,000 sales is a big number. If it seems like these days 300,000 sales is a big number, so that's something I think World War Z kind of deserves, but I think it is also kind of still very possibly some shenanigans, because I think sales could be manipulated by simply Steam pre-purchasing a bunch of copies of the game. That might be the case, and might not be the case. Let's see. Gamasutra has another article. Tel Aviv is now the home of Nintendo's second official store. I guess the first Nintendo store is in New York. I would have thought that there were more, and you would think that there would be one in Japan, but I guess not. Tel Aviv is a weird choice, but there is something to be said about Middle Eastern countries trying to get big into the video game world. That is something I think that they're looking to do. Alright, so that's a 3. And if I play this, it still won't be a 1. It'll be a 2. Yep. That totally didn't work.
Time runs out on me.
Guess I can play this.
Job done.
So it went back up to 6. There's not a lot, I think, unless you're a major collector of Nintendo stuff, that would you really need to go to a Nintendo store for. Since Nintendo sells everything of importance that they sell. Right, 2 random minions. 2 bananas.
Job's done.
I'm trying to get a full hand, and it's proving itself rather difficult. Let's see. Double Fine has a job listing here. Let's see. They're looking for a user experience artist in San Francisco and a visual FX artist in San Francisco. Looks like they also need a webmaster from the looks of their website, and that shouldn't be happening. And they don't do internships apparently. Alright, so here and let's see here.
Job's done.
Let's see. Gamma Sutra has a blog here, localizing your game, how to not make it suck. This would be the kind of article that you probably wouldn't really need to know unless you want to get into localizing. And I imagine there's some other things to that idea too.
Just like you.
Let's see. Go. Think I've got a win here. Games Done Quick is happening right now. They are very heavily pushing their new mascot that is called Velocity. Apparently they made a special point to tweet out that he has no gender and he goes by the pronouns it's/them. Question is, who asked and who thought that responding to that would make sense? Responding to it that way makes sense, or responding to that in general makes sense. Velocity looks like a Sonic the Hedgehog ripoff with some slightly different art around it. GDC never needed a mascot, still doesn't need a mascot, and it seems really ridiculous. Their logo is fine for the Games Done Quick. This is, in a weird way, just a continuation of problems with the leadership of GDC that has been going on for a while now. There's been a decent number of incidences where it's been pretty obvious that the people running GDC, trying to make it more corporate, trying to make it more family friendly, they're trying to make it corporate, not really super family friendly even, has been butting heads with the people that actually make GDC, the speedrunning community, the gamers, as a tag. I heard on the Giant Bombcast them arguing that the label gamers used to mean like it was just an EA marketing term, meaning people who were playing Madden. I don't see it that way. As somebody who's probably never played Madden or any of the gamer bros style of game, the idea that even if that was the case, I've never thought that when I called somebody a gamer, they were a gamer bro style person who was just playing Madden or Call of Duty or Battlefront and nothing else. And frankly, the phrase gamers is an accurate, useful description, so you're not gonna propagandize people to stop using that phrase and word police. But that is what GDC has been doing, is propagandizing against things and word policing. And they've kicked out some of the better known, more popular streamers, and just continued to make it a worse and worse event every year. That being said, you can easily just ignore all of that, have them on your YouTube channel, fast forward at double speed the speed runs, and they're pretty good.
Well,
So the speed runs are fine, and GDC has been by far the biggest raiser of money, so there is something to be said about their corporate mentality and going more corporate, actually succeeding. So it's kind of hard to disagree with some of it. It just goes crazy. And I don't know what would be the real straw that broke the camel's back, because as long as they can get some kind of streamers on the to show up at GDC, and they play relatively decent as speedrunners, and they can, as long as it is still a somewhat polished experience where the person is talking about what they're doing, and they have good audience participation, and usually there's 3 or 4 friends of that speedrunner on the couch, until that feeling goes away. Until they're like, we're getting rid of the couch, we're getting rid of your friends, you can only speak when spoken to, you have to wear a suit. Until it gets pretty extreme, I think people still would want to watch it. And compared to other speedruns, there is a point, an element of just, I've seen a lot of other speedruns that are players that either don't speak English very well or don't say anything anyways. So you're in this weird position where you're watching a speedrun that's mostly silent, and it's being recorded by just one person in his gaming room, with nobody else there. And sometimes they'll have somebody on Skype reading donations. The donations element, looks like Games Done Quick may have fixed some of that, where there's less messages around the donations. I think that was Games Done Quick that was doing that. So you, for a while there, you'd have people donate like $100, and people would go yay, yay, and then they'd read the message, and it would say, this $100 is for my sister who died of cancer, because it's like a cancer charity event, which would be a big bummer. And then 5 minutes later, you would see the speedrunner pull off a fatality in Killer Instinct or something. I don't know if anybody's actually speedrun Killer Instinct. And then the crowd is back to yay, yay, and it's just a massive tonal shifts, but seems like they've gotten rid of messages for the most part, or at least bummer messages. It would really not be a lot for the speedrunners to start another underground Games Done Quick as a competition to Games Done Quick. Games Done Quick was its own underground event anyways, so it wouldn't be anything for enough people to get frustrated and start their own thing. And I think that's really where this is just going to fall down. Is we'll run into enough BS being done by Games Done Quick that it will just eventually move to its own service or a new service to compete, and that's fine because they're charity events anyways. Speaking of charity services that have done some BS, the Humble Bundle has raised $150 million for charity through its bundle and storefront since launching in 2010, so 9 years for 150. That's not really a lot compared to Games Done Quick, frankly. It's more money than I think any individual company would probably raise, but it really isn't a lot. And they've supported things like Operation War Child, Games Aid, Make-A-Wish, Save the Children, WWF, the World Wildlife Foundation, and American Red Cross, and Comic Relief's U.S. Red Nose Day. So some of those are noticeable charities. Questionable, I guess, how much
Arena's full.
of those
the tools of creation return to nothing.
Job's done.
how much of each of those charities actually, how much good they actually do. But that's worth mentioning. It's actual news. It's actual facts to report on. TechRaptor has an article. The Nintendo Wii U gets its first firmware update of the year, which is surprising that it gets any updates whatsoever. Further enhancements to the overall system stability and other minor adjustments have been made to enhance the user experience. I wouldn't be surprised if this is nothing but a update of security licenses, security certificate files, because those expire eventually, although perhaps not as often as it would seem. Let's see, let's do this.
Behold the tools of creation.
And then, what is this?
Time runs out on me.
Back of the line. Return to nothing.
Very few people, I imagine, actually still play with the Wii U, so it getting an update at all is kind of news because of the fact that it's so unlikely that anybody would care. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Square Enix partners with Gary Sinise Foundation to raise cash for first responders, which is a foundation I've never heard of. And they're only going to match other people's donations dollar for dollar up to $50,000, which this is a typical corporate thing where they're just trying to get a tax write-offs of maybe $100,000 by spending $50,000, and they really don't care. Square Enix supporting first responders in particular. I mean, it's not a bad one to pick if you're just picking a random selection of
Behold the
things to
tools of
follow.
creation.
tools of creation.
Time runs out on me.
Behold the tools of creation. Return to nothing. Behold the tools of creation.
It's taking me too long to play a turn, clearly. Yeah, I can't imagine any reason why Square Enix would really want to support first responders. There's not really anything that would be clearly defined as a first responder as far as a police, fireman, or emergency medical tech in any of the games that I think Square Enix publishes, unless maybe they publish the Disaster Report series, and I guess that might make some sense. Let's see. Freeze Mania. Oh, I should have done that first by far. Do that. Do that. And do that. And next elemental I play costs 2 less, which brings that down to 2. Discover a spell, it costs 3 less.
Time runs out on me.
Let's see. Game Researcher has an article building interesting emergence in Dying Light 2. This is probably a hype article for Dying Light 2. Dying Light 1 was in my shopping list. I don't believe I bought it, though. And frankly, there really is just kind of a case of I don't know how much time I'm going to have in the next year to play any games to catch up for the release of the sequel to that game.
You require my assistance? Aha!
Let's see. There we go. Next we have a game on Steam here called Monster Jam Steel Titans. This looks actually rather interesting as a Monster Jam style game. So why at 21 of reviews is it mixed? This is from THQ Nordic and it's come out with no notification. Like, I follow THQ Nordic, I think, on Twitter, and they didn't even bother to tweet out this game has come out, which really scares me about the level of quality of games. Let's see. There's probably 4 to 6 hours of content in the game, and personally didn't enjoy very much of it. To me, it felt like a very bare bones Monster Jam experience and not worth the $30 price tag. Useless unless you're a massive Monster Jam fan and you have absolutely nothing else to spend your $30 on. So this game is just like really high priced at, well, $26.99 right now. They may have reduced the price already. This looks really good. This is like a brand new game and they just slided it out from THQ Nordic. That's ridiculous. Let's see.
Job's done.
Time runs out on me.
Well, Monster Jam Steel Titans, I guess, is not making it to the fall list. It's such a shame. Such a shame. This is not how I wanted to see Nordic Games and THQ Nordic go. Like, I thought we were seeing potentially the birth of a new AAA publisher developer company that was going to do things right and show Ubisoft and EA that you don't have to be these sleazy companies that release garbage games, and instead they're just acting like a sleazy company releasing garbage games, although THQ Nordic I guess hasn't yet released any heavily microtransaction garbage yet, so they haven't been too sleazy. But they did release what is it? Darksiders 3 in a very bad shape. There you go. Let's take this victory. It's taking me a long time to get the victories today. Let's see, we're still looking for 2 games with the Shaman and Warlock. Shaman and Warlock. Let's just switch over to the European account because frankly I'm not sure we have that much news to justify staying on the Americas account. Meanwhile, we have a game on Steam here called Awaiting Salvation that looks to me like it is a puzzle game in maybe an asset flip environment, a 3D puzzle game. What I'm seeing here though is probably such a lack of polish that it becomes hard to justify playing this. It's $1.99. It looks like at some point they may have thought that it was going to be in VR. But it clearly isn't. It's rated positively. I guess I could give this a follow. Maybe there is room to cover a game like this if it's cheap, if it's a cheap 3D puzzle game, in the same way that I like point-and-click adventure games. It's English and a bunch of other languages supported and 20 achievements, so it doesn't feel like it's an achievement game. So yeah, there might be something there. See what we need to play. Just draw 30 cards. That's all I need to do. And play 20 minions that cost 2 or less. Alright. So, a Murloc deck. Great deck. Shaman. And then complete my deck. And let's just see if it puts a bunch of Murlocs in my deck. Nah, it didn't give me Murlocs, but whatever, we'll try it anyways. Let's see. Next game we have on Steam is called Sabot Fight Arena. This feels like this might be an asset flip fighting game. Yeah, it doesn't look like it has any kind of visual coverage or polish to it. No, I don't see how a low effort or underfunded fighting game would be the fighting game to play. $4.97 discounted, bunch of language supported. Yeah, like you really, if you're gonna do a fighting game, need a ton of polish, and so that's out as a thing to consider. And frankly, I've been probably too generous already for things I've been putting on the follow list. Next we have Aperture Hand Lab, so let's look at what's going on here. So these are mostly designed around the idea of showing off what the Valve Index inputs are, which I forgot what the name of the newest controllers are, but they have kind of light sensors and pressure sensors, I would assume, so that they can actually tell what you're doing in a rough way with your hands. So So it feels almost like one-to-one hand
I wonder what this does.
sensing, but I don't know how much of that really matters, because what it really inherently is asking people to do is program their games in a super specialized and customized way so that you can have realistic hand interactions, whereas every other game has been played with a controller. And so you can take specialized actions like pulling a trigger and simplify it very easily to just pressing a button or pulling a shoulder trigger. And then you take something that's a really complicated specialized action as far as reloading a gun, and you put that as just a button press. Games are supposed to be easier, and when you're using these hand controller functions, you're making the requirement and skill needed to play a game a lot more. It's more expensive, it's more difficult, it makes games more difficult. So this demo might be cool and all, it's a free demo too, but it's really not that good. You can grab things, you can shake things, you can wave things. And that's pretty much all this demo is even showing you. This is a technology that almost certainly would never get programmed into a game. Like Doom 2016 or Wolfenstein Youngbloods, for instance, is going to have a whole collection of like finger gestures and hand gestures you can do and select, and it's just going to be a button. There's no reason to try and integrate that into special controllers. I would still, even if I was going to play VR games, I would probably not want to play with the VR controllers that come with the Valve Index if you buy the full bundle. I still would want to just play with an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One controller. I think I have an Xbox One controller now. I wouldn't be surprised if during the Prime Day I decided to buy another one just as a backup, because I tend to burn through them if they are on sale, which it probably won't be on sale. Next game we have on Steam is Chaos Dream Retribution, which looks like a visual novel style game with just a western kind of asset flip look to it. It says it's actually an adventure RPG, but
I wonder.
I'm not seeing any fights or anything being highlighted, and this certainly doesn't look that interesting. Okay, there's a video fighting here. It's boring. $3.99 discounted English only. Yep, just another terrible RPG.
What to do? Job's done.
Next game we have on Steam, which is, I think, loosely going to be called a game, is Spider-Man Far From Home Virtual Reality. So if you have a virtual reality headset, this is a free teaser trailer game for the new Spider-Man movie. We've seen certainly his Sony Pictures Virtual Reality being the publisher of this, not Sony Interactive Entertainment, the people that run PlayStation. We've seen some of this try to be done before, and I imagine we'll still see bits and pieces of this happen for big titles, but this is just a commercial trying to look like a video game. But if you have VR and it's free, I can't shake the idea that it might be worth playing. So I will put this one on the fall list. Notice that I did not bother to put the Valve Hands one on the fall list. But I'll put this one on the fall list, yeah. I could certainly see little kids in particular who are into Spider-Man being happy to have that experience. Let's see. TechRaptor has a Kickstarter they're highlighting here, but I don't see reason to highlight Kickstarters. I don't support them in general, so we'll skip over that article. Gamatsu has an article here. One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows, has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. This is the first console game based on the Shonen Jump One Punch Man manga, and later made into an anime. Kind of questionable. How is that game gonna work when the main conceit of One Punch Man is that unless he tries really, really hard, he will punch enemies and kill them in the first punch, and so he can never get a decent fight out of anybody, and he's constantly looking for stronger and stronger enemies. This looks like they're probably just going to ignore all of that and have you just fight characters from the manga anyways. The funny thing, at least from the anime, since I've seen One Punch Man anime, is it really isn't a fighting anime in general. It is much more a character-driven, story-driven, slight comedy experience. It doesn't have the trappings of the Dragon Ball Z anime, for example, where it's stretching things out and there's endless tournament arcs and endless fights that go on for dozens of episodes.
Thrall versus Jaina.
Which is good. Nobody should stretch out their story as much as Dragon Ball Z did. TechRaptor has an article here, Localizing Judgment, Go Big or Go Home. This is probably just kind of a hype article talking about how the game was localized. Of course, immediately after its initial release, it had to be re-localized and edited because of the main character, the main actor that the main character is based on being caught with cocaine, or with cocaine in his system is what they, I think, found. Let's see. Let's do that. TechRaptor has an article here discussing the legal issues of the Protecting Children from Abusive Games Act, which is a legislation that I guess is potentially going to be put into law, maybe. Although, if any laws happen whatsoever in the United States as the House and Senate are run by different political parties, that would be surprising. Even one that has bipartisan support and is probably a law designed to make it look like the politicians are actually doing something when they're not. In the end, if the law limits the sales of things to minors, as my understanding, my rudimentary understanding is minors really don't have rights at all in the United States. Let's just face it. They are at best considered property of their parents until they turn 18. So a law that restricts or limits their rights almost certainly will succeed and pass. It will get more fuzzy and contested if they had tried to pass a law that said no loot boxes ever, or or heavy regulation would pass a lot easier than outright banning. This is, I guess, a TechRaptor article that really doesn't even need to be concerned or thought about or read, though it's more of a hype article or just a outrage article right now. Let's see if the law actually passes and what the law actually says when it, in the form it actually passes as, because that can certainly be make some major differences as far as what the actual final product is. It could easily get lobbied and watered down into nothing. It could be challenged in courts and ruled unconstitutional relatively quickly. So, yeah, there's any number of things that could change the scenario. And in the end, any law passed by the United States government is probably going to get overlapped by laws passed by the EU and other countries, which will be much more restrictive, and just rules and regulations for different storefronts. But it is certainly sad that it's come to this point, and pretty obviously game developers have an addiction to microtransactions to the point where they couldn't manage their own industry without causing causing somebody to come in and force them to do better. Let's see. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. The prison architect developer Double 11 is taking over for Introversion and announces a free update. I believe Prison Architect, it's been a while, but I'm sure that I think they already announced this. It seems like Introversion is trying to get out from the weight of supporting and adding more content to Prison Architect. There might be, they might have also had their hand in the Escapist game and gotten out from under that too, or that might just be a different developer. Introversion, not really the company you would have expected or wanted to make a game like Prison Architect in the first place. And this, on the face of it, might very well just be a case of the developer paying back the publisher the initial loan, so now the publisher's not making any money on the future sales, or doesn't want to do anything more than take a percentage on the future sales of Prison Architect, so they're not going to add any more support. So that frankly should happen with every game that is not self-published, and it doesn't seem like it ever does. It seems like they'd strengthen their control and relationships and instead of loosening them if a game is successful, and they just continuously want to seem like they're involved. I guess it comes down to who owned the intellectual property on Prison Architect for whatever that's worth, and it may have been that the developer retained ownership of that, and that probably changes the calculation a bit. Next we have a game on Steam called It Stares Back, which looks like some kind of strategy game with visual novel text. I'm not getting a full feeling here. I'm just seeing a lot of fuzziness. Fuzziness in all the graphics. Real-time strategy game. Explore, expand, exploit. Seems like it's a 4X game with just a really different artistic style around it instead of being a space game. Well, I don't like 4X games anyways. This is early access for $5.99, and visually it just does not appeal to me, so It Stares Back is not going to make it to the
Converting stored energy.
follow list. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Forklift Simulator that looks like a mobile game, and frankly this is one of those games where you're doing somebody's job, which is never really fun. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen a better looking forklift simulator on Steam that was like 4 or 5 years old. This is $1.94 discounted and it's English and Russian. And see, when Shenmue adds something like this as a concept, as a mini game, it feels a lot different than when the entirety of the game is around driving a forklift. Like, yeah, I know in one of the Shenmue games, or all the Shenmue games, you can drive a forklift as a mini game, and that whole series is full of mini games like that, but they're mini games, not the entirety of the game.
Photonic burst.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Wingsuit Gutwagen, which sounds German to me. This isn't a VR game. It's single player only. So it just doesn't have enough visual polish, and if you're gonna do the realistic graphics, you're really gonna need the visual polish. This is where Pilot Wings, I think, succeeded very well for its day and age, is because they went with a more cartoony, artistic perspective. How much is this? $6.39? I think what they're offering isn't worth that price, and I think this is just not enough of a game. There's something to the concept, yes, but that needs to be worked on. Alright.
Converting stored energy.
Access denied.
And like I said, not a lot of games are going to come out right now. It'd be great. Next game we have on Steam, Mahjong Magic Chips, which looks like it's just Mahjong Solitaire from like a cell phone version of a game that's been just ported. There's no reason why you would do Mahjong Solitaire in this vertical aspect ratio otherwise if you weren't targeting the cell phone screen. $3.24 discounted, English and Russian. Yep. Let's see.
Arena's full.
Next game we have is called Parking 3D, and while the concept of a parking video game sounds kind of funny, it really would have to be a really well-made game that connects to an actual steering wheel and controls exactly like a car, and frankly it still probably wouldn't be very helpful as an educational piece of software. I don't even know how much parking you really need to do to pass a driving test in most areas in the United States. Again, this looks like a mobile game. Yeah, playing VR versions of this disassociates you from the actual feeling of driving a car. It's much better just to take kids to an empty parking lot and have them test out their parking against cones or just in general in empty spaces. So yeah, this looks like another low effort Russian game since it supports English and Russian. Again, if there was a mini game in Shenmue that said you had to do these things, it would have a bit more of a reason. Right, let's go ahead and hit this.
Access denied.
Job done.
TechRaptor has an article here. Fire Emblem Three Houses will have DLC and amiibo support. This, to me, is more interesting on the fact that it's going to have amiibo support, and Nintendo is still somewhat supporting amiibos, although it seems like for the most part they've abandoned the toys to life concept. Of course, Fire Emblem Three Houses is a Nintendo thing that I think is only going to be on the Nintendo console. Yeah, it's only going to be on the Switch, I would guess.
Arena's full.
I doubt it's coming to cell phones, which would be the only other option. Yeah, it's coming to the Switch. That's it. So, Nintendo exclusives, not particularly interesting to a PC gamer. We have a game on Steam here called Clack, which seems like it's a text/shape puzzle game. Single screen Unity game. It might have something here as far as a concept, something worth trying out or playing. It's early access for $2.99, supports a bunch of languages. So I'll give Clack a follow. It may be something. Next we have a game called ANNE with periods in between each of this. Let's see, what is this? It looks like a platformer adventure game. It doesn't look amazingly terrible. There might be something here. Some space shooting elements too. Doesn't feel like it's super hardcore platforming, which usually scares me away. Early access for $14.99, that's expensive. English and French with 1 achievement, which might make it an achievement game. I'll give this a follow though. We'll see. By the time this comes out of early access, we'll have a probably clear idea about whether it's a good game or not.
Justice. Job's done.
Let's see. Moving on.
Free of that blasted tower.
Here's a TechRaptor article talking about an actual card game, real world card game, so I don't see a reason to mention that since I'm only covering video game news. We have a game on Steam here called Eodalon Adventures, which looks like MS Paint graphics and isn't even full screen. It's a complete and total joke of a game. 59 cents discounted, English and Chinese, so a low effort Chinese game. We've been seeing a lot more low effort Russian games today than Chinese games, which is a bit of a change. We've been seeing a lot of the low effort Chinese games over the past month or so.
Reporting for duty.
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Automa-Chef launches July 23rd. I guess Automa-Chef is a Team 17 game where you're doing like a production line of automated food production. There might be something there, turning what would be Satisfactory as a programming game into a factory farming programming game, although probably isn't going to highlight the problems of factory farming. Did I mention the Raspberry Pi 4 Model B came out? I think I did. It's out, and there might be an 8GB RAM version that you can buy that comes out, and so far, like, people are still getting their hands on it and adjusting their software to work with it, so getting one day one is probably not a good idea. It also probably there's a chance that there's going to be some kind of defect or improvement that needs to be done. What interests me on the thought of the Raspberry Pi 4 Model B is, are we going to ever see a bump up in the amount, speed, or processor speed of the Raspberry Pi Zero, the $5 chip, or is the Raspberry Pi Zero going to stay exactly the way it is, and they're only going to focus on the compute stick model, which is way lesser known and used. You can't really name the next version of the Raspberry Pi Zero Raspberry Pi 1 because there was a Raspberry Pi 1 already, so at best you call it the Raspberry 0.1 or 0.2 as a next upgraded version of that, or you call it something completely different. So they've kind of painted themselves in the corner with the naming convention. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article, Pokemon Masters 8-minute special video, the premiere June 27th. This is a new Pokemon smartphone game from DNA. So, I suppose there might be a chance that the cell phone version of the next Pokemon game might address some of the issues with Shield and Sword not being 100% compatible with all of the previous generation Pokemon. That would be interesting, but it would be a hard sell too. TechRaptor has an article here. Blazing Chrome is a love letter to Metal Slug and Contra. It's coming in July. So, yeah, there's a Contra / Metal Slug clone coming out in July. Hype article for the moment. Let's see, I still have a lot of news. I didn't realize I had this much news. But some of these games were definitely left over from Monday too. So we have a game on Steam called Esports Heroes. This is clearly an asset flip game with free-to-play elements and in-app purchases. English and Russian and simplified Chinese are languages it supports. I have nothing of interest to say about Esports Hero otherwise.
For justice.
I think right now all I'm trying to do is play cards and draw cards, so I think I am actually getting my goal done even though I'm not really winning. Next we have a game on Steam here called Jormungandr, which I think is one of the great serpents in Viking lore, but I might be wrong. Really all this is a 3D globe clone of the game Snake, which, okay, there's an idea here. Not worth $3.99 discounted though. English only as its language. Yeah, there's just this concept. I think the camera would need to be zoomed out more. You would want to get rid of the skybox of the blue clouds and instead just show space. You would want to go for different planets that are bigger and smaller. You would want to try and spice up the game, speed up the game, and really do something amazingly different with it. You're eating, it seems, just boats to get longer. Yeah, as it stands, this is not a game
Follow the
of
rules.
interest.
Protocol 7
For justice.
engaged.
My hand is too full.
Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Bungie pushes back Destiny 2 fix to maintain dev work-life balance. This is the beginning of something that I think we'll start seeing a lot more of as an excuse. And see, this is the problem with, as a video game consumer, you can't really care about devs' work-life balance too much, because I am fairly certain what we're going to start seeing is companies claiming that delays are happening to maintain dev work-life balance. And while there will be some truth to that, in the end, it's still the managers who cannot schedule the proper dates. They're not building in any kind of buffer at all. They're having employees work to the last second of the release date for what seems like only insane reasons.
Reporting for duty.
So it's going to very quickly, in my opinion, become very annoying to hear people saying, we're delaying your game that we promised to have out on a certain day, but you should feel good about it because we're treating our employees better. And I imagine the truth is they're not really going to be treating their employees any better. That this is just going to be the next hollow excuse that corporate mouthpieces start using. And inherently, this would be a case where an actual union in the video game industry could speak out as a unified voice and go, actually, no, that delay is not going to improve our work conditions, and this is just a blatant, shallow lie that they're saying, which is what I suspect it will be more often than not as we start to see more and more companies claim that. Let's move over to the Asian account now, since we got those two daily quests, or one of those daily quests done or something. I don't know how many daily quests we got done. It seemed like we had started with 2, and it took me that entire time to get 1 done.
There's lots of scoundrels in here tonight.
Let's see. Win a game, play overloaded cards, play 12 beasts. If I keep these 2 and play as Hunter, I could possibly get all 3 of these things done. And we have to do the Tavern Brawl. So Hunter over here, complete my collection for me, because I don't want to spend the time trying to build things. And Brawl. Next article we have, Gamatsu. Dissidia Final Fantasy NT DLC character Tifa Lockhart from Final Fantasy VII announced. Update. So Tifa is coming to the one of the online games. I guess Dissidia Final Fantasy NT is the more recent one. I thought Final Fantasy 12 was the more recent one, but I guess I'm wrong. Clearly I'm no expert on the Final Fantasy series. I haven't played any of them. But yeah, she's coming as a character that I guess they've already done the 3D model, so they might as well use it. But noticeably, in this game, from what I hear, she will not be wearing the black underwire sports bra material. So, however, Dissidia Final Fantasy NT uses that 3D model and the materials that make up these models. She'll be potentially jiggling around a little bit more than what the ethics department of Square Enix felt was was acceptable for Final Fantasy VII. So, in a weird way, you're going to have a side-by-side comparability. Interesting, partial nudity in this trailer or in the game itself. Let me come over here and play and contemplate my navel on whether I can show this trailer or not. Well, as I'm watching this trailer, and I'll show a bit of it, I haven't seen any partial nudity, but what I can say is you're so zoomed out in the camera, and Tifa moves so fast as all the other characters move so fast, that you're not likely to be able to see any jiggling in actual gameplay, even if it is occurring. You're also looking at her from an angle, mostly from behind, although at a slight angle. So this hardly is going to be a Senran Kagura style game where you can, where you're seeing boobs jiggling in every single attack and the camera is ogling the character. Although that would probably sell, frankly. They're probably, if there was a Dead or Alive beach volleyball version of all the Final Fantasy characters, that would be something that I think people would be interested in and willing to play. Not just males, but also females interested in looking at pretty people. So here's the parts I'll highlight on this. You'll see Tifa in this cutscene, and she'll jump down, and you can see when she does kicks, it's a pretty natural jiggle. It's not a Gynax jiggle or anything. And then the vast majority of actual gameplay, she's going to be moving like this, so you're not going to be able to see anything. I imagine even in Final Fantasy VII, you're going to mostly see actions like this, and you'd be looking from behind. There is a part late here at the end where you can see her stretch and lean back and forth, and there's just the slightest amount of jiggle. Probably less than even is realistic considering her cup size. So the saga of nobody really caring about, but everybody talking about Tifa's bosoms and how much they bounce continues. There's another video here of gameplay. I'm going to skip through it. There's really nothing to show here. There certainly is an argument to be made about body shaming women who do have naturally large cleavages. I've seen women that I absolutely know have never gotten any kind of elective cosmetic surgery to increase their bust size, and they have massively large busts, and that happens, and pretending like that doesn't happen is unrealistic and unnatural, and it's pushing a unrealistic and unnatural narrative as much as put a photo of someone who is photoshopped to look like they're 100 pounds when really they're 200 pounds. So I think we should all push for more of natural representations and reality instead of pushing for weird agendas that when actually thought through don't make any sense. Speaking of things that don't really make a lot of sense, here we have New Zealand Virtual Debating Chamber, which seems to be a VR app where you can see what the debating chamber looks like. I have no idea why you would do that. I don't know why the government of New Zealand, the New Zealand Parliament, funded this. It seems kind of ridiculous. Maybe the idea was that this would help explain and spread their government system to their own citizens. But yeah, would have been cheaper and easier just to allow cameras inside their debating chamber and just let people watch what's going on, and I assume that that's probably already happening. Let's see. We have a game on Steam here called Be Puzzled Space Jigsaw Puzzle, a low-effort jigsaw puzzle game. We haven't seen a lot of jigsaw puzzle games lately. $1.59, and oddly it's selling space images that maybe they licensed, maybe they didn't, instead of selling your usual anime girl and States of Undress puzzle games. Let's see if we can play around with that. Next we have a game on Steam called Freak Out Calamity TV Show, which looks like a top-down twin-stick shooter, kind of like Smash TV. Would I want to play a Smash TV clone, though? Not sure. This is $11.89 discounted. English, French, and Spanish. I guess I'll be generous and put this on the follow list. There's a little bit of polish here. There might be an actual game to play here instead of this just being a low-effort Smash TV clone, which is kind of what I assume when I think of Smash TV clone, or a clone of anything. So yeah, I'll put it on the follow list. Next game we have is 5-Star Miami Resort, which is a match 3 game. Looks like it's probably from a mobile game, if I was to guess. There is something in the Steam Summer Sale, and looking through my wish list is pretty solid. This is $8.99, not discounted, so this isn't making it to the follow list, by the way. Yeah, my wish list is pretty solid. I don't think in 6 months or a year from now, or possibly ever again, I'll need to do a wish list cleanup. I think I just kind of need to do a follow list cleanup. Really, the summer sales and the big sales, when I scroll through them, if I find a few games that my standards have changed or my taste have changed, and I say to myself, you know what, I don't want so many visual novels on the wish list, or I don't want so many fighting games. I've given up on the idea of covering fighting games. I haven't even started right now on the idea of covering fighting games, but if I was to play several of them and then I gave up on that concept, during a sale I could easily clean up the wish list without making a separate series out of it. So going forward, either every 6 months or every year, there's going to probably just be follow list cleanups, which works fine for me. In fact, arguably I shouldn't do any of the wishlist cleanups on video, but I really don't have, I think, enough content I can create to get around doing that. It takes too much time. Next we have a game on Steam called Iron Blade Medieval RPG. It's already mixed, so clearly it's not great. It says, looks like it's a Mordhau Chivalry clone. Doesn't look bad visually, but maybe in the face of competitions it's not that good, or maybe it's a mobile game. It's free to play with in-app purchases, so I wouldn't cover it anyways. So I guess I could come over here and look at the reviews, but yeah, I'm not going to cover it because it's free to play, so I don't really even have to make a decision. I think if you want to check it out yourself. Does definitely have a feel of being a cell phone game. Game Sutra has an article here. Get a job, Vicarious Vision, Square Enix, and more are hiring. So if you want to be a software engineer for Vicarious Visions in Albany, New York, or a VFX artist for Brace Yourself Games in Albany, New York, or a user experience researcher for Insomniac Games in Burbank, California, or an experienced game developer in Square Enix in Tokyo, Japan. This job listing in particular has been up for at least 3 weeks, and I think it's probably going to stay for quite a while. But yeah, there's a few jobs. I heard that some companies do corporate parties during E3, or which seems a little weird to squish two very busy events, and to do E3, which is a very busy event, and then add another very busy event. Next we have a game on Steam called Snow Arena, which it's 6 months till Christmas. It's way too early to be releasing a Christmas game. I could see releasing a Christmas game in November, but really? June? This is $1.19 discounted, English only. It's multiplayer only too, and apparently online multiplayer only, so you're never going to find anybody to play with you. Well, let's just face it. Let's hit this and this. And hit that, I guess. And then end the turn. Gamatsu has an article here. A new Yakuza game starring Ichiban Kasuga, female co-star edition finalist video report. So, I remember the story where they were just kind of looking for a female co-star and they didn't have a clue who, and they weren't doing like closed auditions or anything, so instead they turned it into a contest, I guess. It says winner to be announced July 10th, which clearly means that they don't really care about this female quote-unquote co-star. There's a list of finalists here with names that might be stage names. It's very possible that that none of these characters have done anything previously, and none of these actresses have done anything of note, even in Japan. And yeah, they're just gonna flesh them out and show them off. Notice how they're not even showing off the faces as a tease. They're showing off like clothing and form. Yep. This feels very much like they were trying to find an idol and not an actress, and they're just trying to potentially have somebody have like a casting couch or something. Although I don't know how much of that really goes on in Japan. It might be that who they're working alongside might be very famous people, so this might very well be a great opportunity for these up-and-comers. But it's hard to know with the barrier of not knowing Japanese actors or voice actors in particular.
Is someone injured?
Let's see. Meanwhile, it'll still probably be 4 years before the next Yakuza game is out and ready to be done, unless they've already developed the game and they just needed the voice actors to do their lines, which maybe that's the case, and then that might put it only 2 or 3 years away. I don't know if we need to really report on this, so some feedback would be appreciated. Azure Lane, which is I think the open source, the free, not open source, but free to play game where it's anime girls and naval ships. It kind of constantly gets updates, like a lot of gacha games do. So just because it's on PS4, I'm not sure if that really means anything, or if we should report on this consistently. Azure Lane Crosswave adds an enemy AI character called Observer. I assume that's this anime girl here. So Azure Lane Crosswave is due out for the PS4 on August 29th and 2020 in North America and Europe. I guess maybe there's multiple Azure Lane games too, because I'm thinking of a cell phone game, and apparently Crosswave is a console game. So there's something I'm probably missing in that too. Next we have a troll game called Russian Test that is clearly just a troll game, a very low effort asset flip garbage game for 59 cents discounted. You can buy all of their games for $4.72 and get 100 achievements. It's English and Russian. This is really the bottom of the barrel style games that still don't really get caught or flagged when they're first released. Maybe they get caught or flagged soon after that, or perhaps they just don't get promoted, so it doesn't matter. Like, the bottom of the barrel may be so deep as far as when it comes to Steam that only people like me who are looking at every game that's coming out on Steam will ever see them. That very well may be the case. Next game, we have something here called Code S-44 Episode 1. This looks like it is a platforming game where you're playing as a little spider droid robot crawling around trying to avoid being viewed. Looks like there might be something here. It's early access in Episode 1, I guess, is free to play, but it's episodic. So you're doubling up on the early access here, because early access and episodic means once you come out of early access for Episode 1, you still really haven't made any promises as far as Episode 2, 3, 4, or 5, which I assume would cost money since there's no in-app purchases in this game. There looks like there's a level of polish here, so I could put it on the fall list, but almost certainly this game a year from now will get removed from the fall list because it will still be in early access and or not made, not completely finished as far as a series. I don't cover Adam Savage's Tested too much, but Borderlands tweeted this out. They put out a video where they made Borderlands 3 giant statues that were at E3. There's a bit of a video here. Yeah, making giant statues, not particularly hard. It's just really all going to be about the detailing. And with Adam Savage's company and the amount of work he can put into it, I imagine he could 3D print a lot of things and get a lot of details. What is an interesting debate to have certainly would be whether having giant statues of characters is a effective way to advertise Borderlands 3. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's an interesting thought. What else do you do at Borderlands 3 at a Gearbox Borderlands 3 booth? You probably just would have been better having more computers set up where more people could play demos, because people want to play the game. more than anything else. The sub niche of people that want to cosplay or look at the 3D characters in Borderlands is a infinitely small group of people compared to the people that want to actually just play the game. And frankly, even if you couldn't get Borderlands 3 playable, you could easily have had Borderlands 2 with the new DLC running on PCs, and instead of using that space. Inherently, that's the problem with any of these ideas, is that they are really just E3 booths are really just this thing that is done to have this big extravagant experience that really is just going to be a waste of time. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. The Steam Summer Sale has arrived and you can win free games. We've already covered the Summer Sale. I don't think there's anything that I really haven't really mentioned. They're saying look at istthereanydeal.com or cheapshark.com. My plugin that was telling me the historic low price on games seems to not be working anymore, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that I have not realized or caught on as far as the Grand Prix thing. I just now have to go install hundreds of games that I've gotten achievements on before and see if I can play them for 5 minutes, and that'll be good enough to give me the boost points. And at this point, if Tortoise did become the overwhelming first place winner, that would be fine by me, because it would still mean that my odds are probably pretty low. And if you haven't done anything for the Steam sale by the second day, which is today, as of this airing, you're already so far behind the curve that you're gonna regret it, at least in part. Okay, Spellbinder will then do 4 damage to that character. And then attack there.
Job's done.
Next we have a game on Steam called Shadow Fencer Theater, which seems like it's shadow puppet artistry, which is an interesting idea, but then it's kind of a fighting game too, isn't it? Local multiplayer, $14.99. It says it's single player. This is a particularly expensive game at $14.99. But I kind of like the art style, so I'll put this on the fall list and see if maybe the price will come down really quickly. If the developer comes to their senses and realize, well, Nidhogg here is selling for $2.99 as a game right now, so my game should probably be $5, not $15. That would be interesting. It would be something I could actually potentially support and buy at $5. Next we have a game on Steam called Hex Electric, which I bet is a single screen puzzle game, although I wouldn't really call this a single screen Unity game. This is more visually polished. So can I get an idea of how this game actually plays? Seems like you're spinning things to light up things. There was a similar game to this that I eventually just removed because it was too
What to
simplistic
do?
looking.
What to do?
This is $2 right now, discounted, and it's English only. 30 achievements. Yeah, I think this deserves a follow. We'll see if enough people review it. But at a cheap price, doing a simplistic puzzle game, making it look very polished and very different. This looks like it's gone above and beyond what you normally would expect to see. Let's see. Next we have a game here called Puzzle Walker Demo, which usually demos don't show up. It's free with no in-app purchases. It looks like total garbage. Why somebody would put this on Steam, I don't know. And if this was a demo for a bigger, longer game, I don't see any quality here that would make me want to buy the final product.
Engaging TC-130 mental dislocator.
Right. Let's see.
I hunt alone.
We already talked about that. Gamer Sutra has an article. Get a job. Electronic Arts is hiring a UI software engineer. Work for the most hated company ever at EA Sports Madrid, EA in Madrid, Spain, as the user interface software engineer, which almost certainly means you're making FIFA user interfaces, or possibly maybe there's something else that they could be doing. Madden interfaces, if not FIFA interfaces, I guess. There we go. Got it. Hit this. Kill that. Let's see, we don't need to watch that video. Let's see. Next game we have on Steam is called Drawn Down, which looks like a horribly animated point-and-click adventure game. This looks so bad that even me, as a sucker for point-and-click adventure games, I'm not willing to pay anything for this game. Even at $2.99, there's more than enough better looking point and clicks out there than this. This looks terrible. So that's not going to make it. At this point, I now see the end of the road, so unless there is a considerably large amount of duplicate tabs, which I doubt there is, it's going to be a long one. I probably should have broken this up. Man, I really need to get back into the habit of breaking up videos, or think of a different strategy. Gematsu has an article. Atelier Rydo introduces 4 new characters, gathering point synthesis. So, more characters for the Atelier series. I guess it's just being named for the most part instead of being shown in this article. I definitely thought about getting the Atelier series, but I'm not even sure which one would be the first one without doing a deep dive to figure out the order of play in that. So that would have been a hard decision to make. Yeah, there was a lot of that, frankly. Just a lot of games that I thought about buying, and then for one reason or other, there's just not enough of a good reason.
That's not a valid target.
Or enough of a way to justify the expense. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Kenichiro Takaki is working on an action game with non-Yagashi at Cygames. Big Grand Blue Fantasy Versus announcement coming soon and more. So this is just an interview with several different bits of information that's a little too inside baseball for me, quite frankly. How are we gonna do this?
I
think we're gonna do it this way. There we go. Gamasutra has an article. Get a job. New World Interactive is hiring a community manager in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. If you're interested in that. Let's see. Gamasutra has an article. The law against account boosting goes into effect in South Korea. So, if you're account boosting, you can get up to $18,000 and 2 years suspended prison sentence for doing that. The legislation allegedly aims to curb paid game progression services, which have become a lucrative business in South Korea. So, laws against video game cheating going into effect in South Korea. Let's face it, South Korea, while much more kind-hearted in its legal system than North Korea by far, is still a pretty harsh master as far as how they enforce and punish people for breaking their laws. South Korea being known for it being illegal or at least extremely dangerous to chew chewing gum. So for so many people that had spit the chewing gum out on the street. So yeah, that really isn't out of line in general with most Asian countries, unfortunately. They're all a little controlling and demanding. But it does seem like this account boosting law is, at least in text and in its words, going to be focusing on the corporations who are doing it and not just an individual who installed some software to cheat on a game. But I've seen at least one lawsuit where somebody used an app to get free in-game gems that you would have had to purchase for, and so he got a bunch of them, and then the company sued him for basically robbing them of the gems, which I didn't think the judgment on that was probably fair or just. Rewarding a company for putting in microtransactions should not be a major thing that happens. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article here. Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony penned a letter against the Trump game console tariff. Now again, this is the 25% tariff that is to a lot of things against China. Gamasutra has been twice now dishonest in the way they've labeled it. It's a tariff against pretty much everything, not just video games. And so when you look at it from that perspective, even as a fan of video games, there's really not any reason that I can see that video games should be excluded from any tariffs levied against any company, unless you're going to make the argument that video game diplomacy exists, and by not tariffing the production or the sales of video games back and forth, there might be better relations between the countries, which really those ideas are at opposite ends of the spectrum. One is the idea that tariffs will influence force on a company to force them to do what you want. The other is that being kind to a country and enforcing no tariffs or low tariffs will gain goodwill from that country and get them to do what you want. And probably in the middle, particularly in China's case, I don't think China's going to do what anybody else wants ever. They don't seem to be really doing what their own people want. So why would they be listening to anybody else? Like most recently, the Hong Kong protests, China is like forbidding that to even be mentioned or brought up at the Group of 20 summit, the G20 summit, and China has long since had a stance of their one China policy as far as Hong Kong and other countries, Tibet, and their one China policy will seemingly just continuously be expanded until the one China policy means that all of the world is China. So yeah, I'm talking about politics here, and that's not particularly video games, but yeah. So they can pin a letter all they want. It's a little surprising that the ESA isn't pinning that letter for them, and maybe they are, and Gamma Sutra is just reporting it in a weirdly inaccurate way. But yeah, okay, pin your letters. I don't think the US president is going to listen to them any more than the Chinese president would listen to that kind of letter. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Tim Sweeney, Epic Games Store exclusives will help devs earn more money. He's doubling down on this idea that it will help them earn more money. Inherently, it's helping publishers earn more money, not devs. He's trying to push the idea that this will eventually force Steam to be more competitive and lower their cut, and then that will somehow make it better for consumers, which it probably wouldn't. Tim Sweeney, in my opinion, and I think in most people's opinion, is full of baloney, and I think most people know it. His goal is pretty obvious, that he wants to hurt Steam, I think for a straight up personal reason more than anything else. Once if Epic Games ever became a major video game storefront and for some weird reason Steam disappeared, went out of business, I would not be surprised one bit if the cut went up higher or more fees got added on and the consumer in no way is better supported. The idea that's trying to be sold here, and that just does not ring true, is that video game publishers and developers don't make enough money. They do make enough money if you get rid of investors, which I don't believe investors should be allowed to exist pretty much ever in any industry, and if you get rid of publishers that are taking their massive cuts. You can make video games, and you can do it. Indies prove it all the time. You can make video games and make a profit. Part of it means also not going the Hollywood route and making $50 million, $100 million games, and instead only making games that are like $1 million. And we see that with Suna's Hellblade, Suna's Sacrifice. I'm going to switch back to the Americas account now. Actually, come to think of it, I don't think I did the Tavern Brawl. So let's go back to the Asian account. So we've seen success stories. Also, I think you have to assume that not every video game company is going to be a success story. If you believe in capitalism, which you probably shouldn't, then you have to also believe that a vast majority of companies are supposed to fail. So if you believe in that, then in the video game industry, there are supposed to be people that just go out of business and fail, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Geez, what do I want to play? What would best suit playing 2 turns at once? I think the mage probably is the best one. There we go. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Crowdfunding without a graphic designer. From this title, I can certainly relate to the idea, as I definitely desperately need a graphic designer to work for me, but I don't have one. And while I'm on Patreon, so I guess I kind of am crowdfunding on that, sort of.
You asked for it.
My main thought, though, here on this is if you can't hire and put any money into hiring a graphic designer to even make the infinitely small amount of art you need for a Kickstarter fund, there's no way you're going to succeed on a Kickstarter fund. So this is a blog that probably is just a self-promotion ridiculous article that nobody really needs to read. But yeah, if you're going to try and run a business, you've got to be able to run a business, and part of that when you're starting out means convincing people to do things for very cheap and or investing your own money into things or getting loans. And if you're not capable or willing to do that, then your business is not going to succeed in the long run. Apparently they're going to be playing these pogo guys over and over again. Let's see. It's doing quite a lot. Alright, well, just in the turn there. Gamma Sutra has another article here. Rovio files a trademark lawsuit against hot chicken restaurant Angry Birds with a Z. Now, here's the question. Will Angry Birds with an S as a trademark apply to a chicken restaurant versus a video game? I think there's a real case here, but I could also see it not succeeding. Part of the part here is that it's Angry Birds with a Z, but then the orientation and pivoting of the graphics kind of goes to show that they copied it directly from Angry Birds, whereas if it had just been a standard font that said Angry Birds, you'd be in a little bit better case.
Time runs out on me.
Let's see.
Amazing.
I don't know why you would want to do that and not give it some more passes. If your first idea is let's call it Angry Birds, why not then spin it over to Spicy Birds, and then they've got no claim at all, or Spicy Chicks or something like that, or Hot Chicks, you know. In any number of maybe Hot Chicks is going too far. Maybe that would stop people from actually going to your restaurant. But Spicy Birds, I think, works fine. And spend less than 5 minutes thinking of the title of your company, and I think you can kind of quickly, easily figure out something better. So yeah, I think they have a bit of a lawsuit possibility there. probably going to lose. TechRaptor has an article here. EA Origin security flaw potentially left 300 million players exposed. Let's see if there's anything here to mention. These access tokens function similarly as passwords. Let's see. EA patched the issue, although the flaw left as many as 300 million user accounts exposed to hijacking instead of gathering usernames and password. The exploit would have allowed hackers to break into accounts using a single sign-on token. Instead, these access tokens function similarly to passwords, allowing players to access their accounts using generated codes. So, yeah, bad security procedure. You really gotta get your security right when running major services, and if you don't have an internal IT team that can do that, then you need to hire the right people who can do that. Here we go.
Amazing.
Heating up.
Twitch support is having trouble again. Apparently they tweeted out something about
Amazing.
we would like to clarify our email about subscriber streams as unfortunately caused confusion. Some users who have not streamed 90 unique broadcast days were told that they had received a violation on their channel, and when this may not have been the case. To clarify, you are eligible for the feature of having subscriber streams if you are a Twitch affiliate or partner, have broadcasted at least 90 unique days as an affiliate or partner, and have not violated the Twitch community guidelines. So they just sent out suspension notices to the wrong people. If your channel receives a suspension, you will need to broadcast on 90 different days without another violation to be eligible for the subscription streamers. And as someone who's outside of Twitch, that sounds like there's probably some people doing some subscriber-only nude streams on their channel, if I was to guess. Or that's at least what they were trying to lock down and avoid, is having subscriptions like that. Twitch still feels like it's a mess, and still feels like it's not a valid replacement for YouTube, unfortunately. I'd like to see it succeed, even though Amazon.com owns it, but they've got to get their stuff together, and that's not happening. As is, victories are not happening here. I still think my strategy as mage might work. The Game Critics Awards put out their nominees, Best of E3 2019. Game Critics Awards are basically YouTube mainstream video game media.
Jane versus Thrall.
So let me just zoom in way too much. 64 judges that are just mainstream video game media, and all groupthink and know each other and think alike. 64 people, one brain, basically. So their nominees for Best of Show are Borderlands 3, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, The Outer Worlds, and Watch Dogs Legion. Now, inherently, none of the people who saw these games early, because they all got early access several days to these games, I doubt they saw any independent games. I doubt they saw anything that wasn't from a major publisher or developer and actually considered any of that. So their best original game is the game 12 minutes Bleeding Edge Control John Wick X, and the Outer Worlds. And I'm just going to mention if I see anything here that I did not see on a main stage or talked about. Best console game, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Luigi's Mansion 3, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Watch Dogs Legions. All of these games, by the way, too, barely showed any actual content, so how you can give them best PC game or best console game when you really haven't played them is really ridiculous. Best PC game is Borderlands 3, Control, Doom Eternal, Outer Worlds, Wolfenstein Youngblood. Best VR AR games. Here's the ones I didn't see. Asgard's Wrath, Lone Echo 2, Minecraft Earth, Phantom Corps Ops, and Sniper Elite VR. The only one I saw was Minecraft Earth. Best hardware peripheral, the Sega Genesis Mini, the Smack Z, didn't see anything about that, and the Xbox Wireless Elite Wireless Controller Series 2, which I believe is $150. So that prices it out of any realistic
What to do?
Welcome to the show.
price. Like that's just something that most people could never afford to actually buy. Best action game, Borderlands 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Doom Eternal, Gears 5, Wolfenstein Youngblood. Best action adventure game, Control, Luigi's Mansion 3, Fallen Order, Legend of Zelda, Watch Dogs Legion. So there's so many categories here, they can easily give at least 2 or 3 awards to every single game that they are, the top 10 games that they're focusing on. Best role player, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's not coming out in the next decade, almost certainly. It's not going to be a finished product in 10 years from now. So does it deserve a 2019 award?
We must
really?
cleanse the Sunwell.
Monster Hunter World Iceborne, Pokemon Sword and Shield, The Outer Worlds. Best racing games are Crash Team Racing, Nitro Fueled, F1 2019. I may have not seen that. Forza 4, Lego Speed Champions, and Grid. Best sports games are eFootball Pro Evolution, Soccer 2020, Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, Tokyo 2020, Madden NFL 20, and Roller Champions. Maybe I didn't see Roller Champions. Best strategy is Age of Empires Definitive Edition, Desperados 2, I don't think, no, Desperados 3, I don't think I saw that. Fire Emblem 3 Houses, John Wick Hex, and Phoenix Point. I don't think I saw that. Best family social games are Fall Guys, Luigi's Mansion, Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, Minecraft Dungeons, and Pokemon Sword and Shield. Best online multiplayer, Bleeding Edge, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Gears 5, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Wolfenstein Youngblood. Best independent games, 12 Minutes Carrion, Fall Guys, John Wick X, Sayonara Wild Hearts. So that game probably will win Best Independent Game just because it wasn't in any of the other categories. Best Ongoing Game, Destiny, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, Monster Hunter World, and Tom Clancy's The Division 2. And the special commendation for graphics will be announced. Let's see. To be eligible, games must have been hands-on playable to the voting publication for at least 5 minutes of gameplay at E3 2019. Actually, that means it was before E3. So Cyberpunk isn't eligible, Dying Light 2, several other games here you can see were just not eligible. Which I guess I have to kind of applaud the fact that they're holding their ground on that rule, that the game actually has to be playable, but playable for 5 minutes, a playable demo of a game for 5 minutes is hardly a realistic experience or likely to be the final product. And yeah, the Game Critics Awards, the least prestigious awards of a series of extremely unprestigious video game awards that happen every year. And inherently, I think that builds around my feeling of E3 in general, is that it is just this event talking about games that may come out 3, 4, 5 years from now, and it really has nothing to do with an actual video gamer's experience right now, today. They're not games you can buy, not games you're going to be able to buy in a couple months in most cases. So a Game of the Year awards for 2019 is much, much more relevant when you're covering games that actually came out in 2019 than a Game Critics Awards for games that more than likely won't come out in 2019 or anytime soon. Moving on, Gamer Sutra has an article. It says QA bears the brunt of Treyarch's crunch and culture issues, says staff. There's been a lot of talk about crunch and culture, so read this article if you want to. There's really nothing as a gamer we can do about it. The question, I guess, comes down to, do you really want us to boycott every single video game company because they all have crunch? Or are you going to do what you need to do and form an actual union? And then, like, if there was an actual union that I actually trusted in the video game industry, maybe I would just donate some money directly to them. That would be doable. There's nothing stopping the union from taking donations from gamers. But until they have a real form of organized organization in general, there's kind of nothing as a gamer I can do, and it's not really my prerogative or my ability to affect the situation. It's definitely not my responsibility, unless you just assume that you are supposed to help all of your fellow man. Then it is your responsibility if you can help. But can you help? And the answer is no. Like, unless you're really rich, unless you can buy enough shares in a company like EA and then tell them to run their business more ethically, because you're the majority shareholder, you really can't do anything. And so then the articles just become like so many news articles, where they're just built around creating impotent rage, which is not a good way to be mentally in your life at any point, is to be angry at something that you can't change. Moving on, Variety has an announcement. The Myst film and TV rights have been sold to Village Roads' show, which is weird because that you would have thought that they would have optioned Myst a long time ago. Let's see, this is the co-producer and co-financer of The Matrix and the Sherlock Holmes franchise, so maybe a Myst movie will be made. I think you could take the entirety of the Myst series and make a story there. Sure, there is enough of a story to tell, but I imagine you get rid of a lot of the puzzles and the video game elements to tell a more linear, logical story of Atreus and his sons and his daughter
You asked for it.
that he had later in the story. I imagine it's going to only be slightly connected or slightly feel like Myst. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a movie that will be optioned for the next 10 years and will never actually get made, or if it gets made, it sits on a shelf. It's a little unbelievable to think that Myst would replace the Sherlock Holmes movie series or the Matrix movie series. I think they might even be doing a new Matrix movie, if I remember hearing that correctly. So, yeah, something being optioned doesn't really mean anything. Every game in the video game industry world should be optioned as just a way of them making money off something that would probably never happen. Look at the Super Mario Brothers movie. That's a horribly inaccurate and one would say story destroying version of Super Mario Brothers, but it really did not hurt the Super Mario Brothers series one bit. If anything, it helped it. So yeah, even if somebody was to make a terrible, well, the Tomb Raider movies, some of those were good, some of those were bad. They didn't hurt or help the Tomb Raider game series much at all.
Someone injured?
Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Super Web Kittens Act 1. This looks like it's a low-effort visual novels with kittens photoshopped into it, cut and pasted into it. $3.49, English only. I don't think there's anything here that needs to be followed. This just looks low effort. It's trying to be like that pigeon game. Pigeon dating simulator, I would guess. Still have games to talk about. Wow. Let's see. We have Team YouTube on Twitter. Starting today, we're rolling out several new features to help you more easily find out and enjoy videos on home and in your up next suggestions. Coming to mobile now and desktop soon. Check out the update below and get the full scoop from the community. It looks like it's a YouTube thing. Also, there was a YouTuber that apparently killed himself, but I don't know anything about this guy, never heard of him. Greetings. So there's really nothing to say about him. It seems like that's likely to happen for as many YouTubers are out there on a pretty regular basis. Times are certainly tough for everybody, so it certainly would make sense that depression is high in general. Here's a don't recommend this channel anymore option from the 3 pull downs, which, you know, sometimes you just get that where it's the same channel but different videos over and over getting recommended. I could also see, however, my own channel getting blocked by a few people. That's fine. If people don't want to watch my channel, I don't want to enforce it. Here's the indication of this is the old occasional updates to the new personalized updates. But if you actually want old notifications, you still have to get a completely different thing that has bars, little curved lines up above, and they don't want you to get all notifications. Their BS line is still very consistently saying that that they have found in their testing, if you get all notifications from channels you said you want to get all notifications from, you'll eventually just get fatigued and turn off notifications for everything, all of the YouTube app in total. I think that's questionable, to say the least. It depends on the person, certainly. If somebody does something and they don't know what it really is going to do, yeah, I understand why they would be a little bit upset when it does the thing that they actually asked for. On the other hand, there are people out there that actually know what they want and they're upset when they don't get it. And I'm still getting a lot of people telling me that they think I haven't been streaming or making content for months when I have very consistently been streaming and making content. Well, not a lot of people, but I'm still getting people telling me that. Alright. Let's see. So the problem, I guess, with playing 2 turns in a row is that your frozen minions will unfreeze. Moving on, we have Gematsu. Hot Gimmick Axis Strong for Switch launches July 4th in Japan. Is this a Mahjong game? The Switch version of the exposure-heavy Mahjong game is enhanced for a version of the PS2 release. So, I don't know what they mean by exposure-heavy. I guess that means there's nudity in it. Let's try Hunter. Since we're not getting any victories here, let's switch over to Hunter. Make a Hunter deck. I still have quite a few things to talk about. My games, but I think they're mostly garbage games, so we could burn through them pretty quickly. But you know what? Sometimes I'm realizing I'm too optimistic. This stuff just takes time. So we have a game on here called Sea War 2, which seems like an asset flip first-person shooter. There's nothing interesting here. $3.99 discounted English. Yeah, that's not making it to the follow list. Let's go ahead and trade out all of these. Maybe hold on to that. Gematsu has an article here. What Remains of Edith Finch is coming to the Switch on July 4th. I thought about buying What Remains of Edith Finch. A little too expensive. But yeah, it would have made sense, certainly, to try to buy it. But I wouldn't have been able to cover it in time for July 4th in the Switch version release anyways. So, yeah. Echo Rush. Let's do this. Gematsu has an article here. Sega and Ace Team announced a fantasy action game called Soul Sephiroth for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Looks like the graphics might not be too polished on it. Is there a video? Well, if a video wants to load, there might be a video. Really have no excuse to be out of RAM here. It's from the studio behind the Rock of Ages and Xenoclash, which I don't think I really trust that studio. Yeah, and this YouTube video does not want to load. I don't know what happened there, but whatever. Let's play this. And then that. Then end the turn. And what can we do? Echo Rush, Divine Shield. That's pretty much all I can do, is that. Gematsu has an article here. Project Sakura Wars first gameplay. Sumiri Kaoru. I'm not going to name the rest of these people. And more details. Latest on the upcoming PS4 title. So some characters.
So many possibilities.
I didn't realize this was the art style for Sakura Wars. Or the latest Sakura Wars, I guess. Well, okay. I didn't even see any of the Sakura Wars on PC, so if there are any Sakura Wars games, I didn't even consider them. Looks like this is a 3D action game with a lot of interaction and communication for as much as there are characters around. Yep, dialogue choices a la Telltale. see if this video will play. And if there's, this is one of those videos where it's just the creators talking about it, and maybe you'll get a few screenshots. So yeah, a little bit of hype, not a lot of hype from my perspective on Sakura Wars, but I get the general idea. And do that. In the turn, and then start my second turn. So do that. There we go. Next we have a game on Steam called Lost Egg, which looks like it's just a kind of asset flip of an egg trying to roll around a 3D environment. Not 100% sure I want to call this an asset flip game now, because it looks like there might be a little bit more polish on this idea. In the end, this is just a smoother movement around the idea of that game where you played as toast, I am bread. So yeah, I'm not sure that there's a lot here, and at the price of $2.69, I don't suspect that this is much of a game. I'll be generous, I'll put it on the follow list, but with its lack of visual polish, I suspect that this is maybe 3 or 4 levels, and that's kind of it. And I Am Bread is a much better concept, although I Am Bread does kind of have its own problems, in that it's really not a super interesting gameplay mechanic.
Quickly.
Let's just end there. Alright. This. 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 And hit that. There. Let's see. Next game we have on Steam is called Card Throw VR. If you want to get into throwing cards, you should probably throw real cards. There's kind of nothing else to it than that. Trying to do this in VR really gets you into such a fantasy idea, and this is not visually polished, and it's not going to feel anything like actually throwing cards. You're relatively safe throwing cards around in a house. You're not going to do much more than make a mess and maybe knock something extremely light off a shelf. If you were going to become a professional card thrower, you'd probably get special cards that are thicker than your regular card, but yeah, I don't see a VR reason to try and emulate this in that way. It says $3.59 discounted, requires VR, English only. Yeah, it just seems like a bad concept, before anything else. Right. I need this. And then this. See, I've lost. Nothing I could have done would have saved me here. Unless my second turn saves me. So this. And do I want to go 1, 2, 3 and do more damage?
Quickly.
Or charge. Do I have a second turn? Yes. Alright, so hit this there. I've got 5 damage I can do right now on the field. If I played this, I could get 2 more minions on the field. But I'd have to get rid of some minions. So I have to do 1, 2, 3. And then play this. And 1, 2 there. And then 1, 2 here. And see, that's still not good enough. It's still not good enough. Like,
Job done.
I would have needed to be able to. I would have needed to use this hero ability to do 2 more damage. Because now he's got like 2 turns in which he can just do 9 damage, almost certainly. Oh, this is gonna take forever. I can already see this is gonna be another hour of gameplay later tonight of just trying to get somebody to let me win. Like, he's got 7 damage in his second turn. He's won. He's absolutely won. And he can even life tap just for the fun of it.
The future is clear. Your demise be near.
Like, my only hope is that he would do something really stupid.
Engaging TC-130 mental dislocator.
But no, I imagine he's just showing off.
The future is clear. Your demise be near.
Yeah. So let's revert to my standard strategy, which is to start a game and then not really play so they get frustrated and concede. Let's just focus on news here. We've got a game here called Black Squad, which is mostly positive. Apparently it has got a new update. It's free to play. It's multiplayer only. It has in-app purchases. It seems like there's a high percentage of people that like this game Black Squad as a free to play game. I would never cover a free to play game, so I don't really need to mention it any further than that, though.
Bring it on.
So, moving on. Next, we have a game on Steam called Hardcore Mecha, which is very positive. This looks like a sci-fi game. Let's see if we can see what it looks like here. You have anime characters with realistic mecha in its image. Jeez, nothing wants to load. Am I full on hard drive space? I might be full on hard drive space. It didn't occur to me on that aspect. This live stream may not get a recording, but usually I'd run into trouble. So this looks like a 2D platforming shooting game. Nothing looks too terrible on it. $16.99, 15% discounted. Single player with online multiplayer games. English, Japanese full audio. Yeah, this looks like it might deserve a follow at least. Although, in all reality, it's so positive now, I should probably just put it on the wish list. As a platform mecha game. So what we're doing over here is we're just not doing anything. Just gonna let the rope go as long as possible, and this will be an interesting thing to find out of as far as if the rope burns down once on an extra turn, does it burn down a second time, or does it just immediately skip your second turn? Because that could be a major penalty. So yeah, it'll take a few seconds to get to this point. Then it stays at this point for a lot longer than you would think. Yeah, and it does build a second turn. Interesting. TechRaptor has an article here. Nutaku pledges $5 million investment towards LGBTQ plus games over the next 3 years. This is not really a pledge to any real charity or anything. It's just saying they're going to continue to make LGBTQ plus games, that they had already decided they were going to do that, and these are games they are selling and making all the profit from, so this is hardly a charitable action. But yeah, more diversity in adult games can't really be a bad thing. Komatsu has an article. Tiny Metal Full Metal Rumble launches July 11th. Another game of the Tiny Metal series, I believe. And we've got a video that doesn't want to load. Not sure exactly what this is coming out on, whether this is a cell phone game or it's, let's see. Oh, it's coming out for the Switch and the PC. Alright. Now, trying to bore somebody when you take 2 turns and they take 2 turns probably isn't going to work, because this guy will just be able to rail me twice as fast on his turns, particularly if I'm not putting up any kind of defense or taunt minions. TechRaptor has basically the same article. Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney explains their exclusivity strategy, or tries to explain it, or explains it using some really faulty logic that doesn't make a lot of sense, depending on how you want to do that. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has the same article. Humble has raised $150 million for charities. I think we already, that was the exact same article we had already talked about. And Gamatsu has this, we've already talked about that. We don't need to talk about it again. Let's see. Nothing needs to be mentioned in that article. So yeah, my strategy of ignoring the Hearthstone completely didn't work. It will eventually work, it's just how many times. We've got a game on Steam here called HRDINA, which looks like an asset flip game of just voxel-based garbage. It's jumping around a low-effort platforming. It's free, I guess, so the price is right. English and Czech with 13 Steam achievements. So, yeah, of course that's not making it to the full list. Still have about 10 games to talk about. Next we have a game here called Foreign Fruglers, which looks like it is just a Galaga clone with maybe some changes going on here. Some general ideas changes. I don't like the visual aesthetics of this though. It looks pretty much just like a one-screen arcade game, and I don't think it really changes too much to make Galaga, which I think is the name of the game it's a clone of. I always confuse them. I don't think that there's enough there to really sell me on it. It's discounted for $2.99, English only, 8 achievements. Yeah, I just don't think it needs a follow though. It's not polished enough. My standards are higher than that, hopefully. Or at least I'm hoping my standards will be higher than that in the future. Here we've got a game that's just in Asian characters, that's going to be a RPG Maker looking game. Probably a low effort Chinese game. Early access, English not included, $3.99. Or $9.99. Simplified Chinese only, yeah. Nothing of interest there. And see, now I'm having to do penance for not covering so many games on Monday, so that's what I'm running through now, is just the Monday garbage games compared to, well, I guess today's garbage games. Let's see. Next we have on Steam, Real Man Got 100, and then a bunch of Asian things. This looks like a low effort platformer garbage game for $1.19 discounted right now. Says it supports a bunch of languages. Nothing visually appealing about this at all. Alright, let's hit that. And hit that. And then hit that. And then attack. Attack.
That's not a valid target.
And then end the turn. Okay. Deal 4 damage to a minion, discover a spell. +1/+1 attacks a random minion. Let's try that. Well, this isn't too bad of a start. Moving on to the next game. We have a game called The Storytale that looks like it might be a little bit polished enough to be a game. It's positive, 100% positive with 11 reviews. I think there might be something here, so I'll put this on the fall list. I think I said that last on Monday. $11.10 discounted, English, Russian, Ukrainian. That is a tough sell, though. That is a real tough sell to believe this might actually be a good game, but I'll give it a chance. I'll put it on the fall list, you know. A fall list cleanup wouldn't be very interesting if 100% of all the games were actually good and made it to the rest of the listing. Oh, I could have worked through that a lot better than I did. I'm gonna hit that one with that, and then end the turn. 4 damage. I could do this for 1. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I'll put Storytale on the fall list. Let's see, next game we have on Steam is called Castle Woodwharf. Which looks like it. Well, I can't even get the images to load, I can't even see it. It looks like you're just playing all of the game underground. Yeah, I don't see anything particularly interesting about the graphics or how this game plays. $5.94 discounted, English only. It seems to me like it's a simplistic strategy game, kind of like a tower defense game. Yeah, the bottom looks like a tower defense game. The top looks like a strategy game where you're constantly trying to mine for more resources. This, and then the turn. Finally, we got a victory. Alright. Finally. And that also got a daily quest done, which I did not realize it would do that, but whatever. More daily quests done, the better. So, in theory, I should jump back to the Americas account, but if I can just burn through these next couple of games, we'll be done for today. It's been a long one. We have Beyond the Wizard here, which looks like a low-effort game of some sort. Seems like player versus player Smash Brothers attempt of the clone. Looks like garbage. $3.59 discounted. English and Korean. That's a unusual language combination. See, I would have to get ideally a Shaman or Warlock victory in this. So just try to quickly play that while we're wrapping up here. Next we have a game here called Kingdom Heroes, which looks like an RPG Maker style game, if not an actual RPG Maker game. It's weird they're saying, hey, this is from the beta version, early access. 99 cents, English and German. Nothing visually attractive about this game whatsoever. I don't even know if this actually is an RPG. It looks like it might just be some kind of strategy game where you're just finding houses in the dark for no reason, or just without any sense or logic behind it. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Zoos, I guess is that's how you pronounce that? XIU Supermarket. Looks like it's an asset flip beat 'em up game. Looks like a mobile game. It's way too zoomed in to see all the characters, and the zooming in, I assume, is to hide the fact that there's really no background or layout to the design. English is not supported, $2.99, Chinese only. Yep, that's actually a pretty polished Chinese garbage game. It's still something I'd call a Chinese garbage game, but it seems like it's more polished than what you normally would see. In the channel. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam here called Ethanol in Dungeon, where English language is not supported. It's 1% off for $2.96, and it looks like it is just kind of a low effort dungeon crawler game, top down game with an anime character and a thumbnail. At least they spent an effort here. Well, it looks like when she starts taking damage, she might actually have more damaged clothing, although it's not tagged with any nudity or anything like that, so who knows. Yeah, this is a low effort Chinese game, $2.96. Well, Japanese. Oh, it's a low effort Japanese game. Let's see. This, and then return. Only a few more games to cover, and then we'll be caught up for Friday, which is good because Friday's always like super long and very few people decide to watch on Friday. And good for them for having something better to do on a Friday. Next we have a game on Steam called Just Monsters, which looks like it's maybe a game, maybe. The art style though is like the only thing that's selling this right now is the art style, as like a pencil sketch art style. It's $2.99 discounted right now. It's English only. I'm gonna give this a follow, but it really doesn't deserve it. There's nothing here that explains what kind of game this is. It's tagged violent, gore, cute, indie. Is it a visual novel? Is it a hide and go seek game? Is it a horror game? Who knows? But I guess I'll give it a follow and see if maybe there's some redemption that can happen here. Alright, they silenced that guy. So I want to do this and then this, and then I want to keep on attacking the face, and then I want to end the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Sudoku 9x16x25, which does not seem to mean that it's actually a 3D version, and there clearly are not 9, 16, or 25 versions of Sudoku being depicted here. This is 5x5, so that'd be 25 boxes. And inside of them there are 5 spots, but it seems like there's several different versions, and that's what it's trying to imply. This is $1.99. I don't think we need another achievement asset for Sudoku game. There's nothing really wrong with this, it's just I really don't need this in my life, and I think if you were going to play this, playing this on mobile would make a lot more sense. It's $1.99, but yeah, I don't think there's a reason to put that on the follow list. Okay. 3 damage to a minion and overload, sure. And finally, we have a game on Steam here called Awesome Taxi, which looks like a piece of garbage Russian troll game. Doesn't look interesting at all. $1.19 discounted, English and Russian. 20 achievements. A lot of Russian troll games this week. We really haven't been seeing much of that lately. And so then that puts me at the Humble Bundle store, and I'll just reload the page for my own confidence, just to see if there actually is a games bundle. No, oddly, there's a book bundle, a book bundle, a book bundle, a book bundle, and Humble Monthly. There's like 4 book bundles, and that's it. And I wonder if this might be an indication that they are giving up on doing they're giving up on doing the video game bundles, or if they're trying to do something particularly different about where those bundles and sales appear and taking them away from the Humble Bundle store and instead putting them on Fanatical, which is kind of what I thought they were eventually going to do. Alright, and that just puts me at my Twitter feed. So let's see if there's any new news that occurred throughout the process of this stream.
Victory is yours this time.
Arc of the Alchemist is coming to the Switch October 10th in Japan. Guess we can talk about that on Friday. There's a visual novel, possibly adult game. It came out in the meantime. We can talk about that on Friday. Really just looking for big time news. Raiden 5 Director's Cut for the Switch debut trailer. So I just will need like one more victory that I'll get off screen, it seems like. There's an Astral Chain details and dev blog came out. We don't need hype articles about Astral Chain. PlayStation Plus July 2019 includes Pro Evolution Soccer 2019 and Soccer Mania, Sonic Mania. Let's see. Sega Age of Space Harrier launch trailer is out. And I believe that's all the new news. Yeah. So not too much happened. We're still resting, and as a video game industry, we're still resting and relaxing around E3, so no big news is happening. So yeah, that's going to be it for this recording. It's a little strange that nobody showed up on chat. I thought that would have happened. We've gone 4 hours, which is really, really long. But yeah, after getting 80 views plus probably at this point for the special video for the Steam Summer Sale, it seems to have done very little as far as getting people to watch the next live stream the next day that I made. So yeah, it still sucks to be a YouTuber. Anyways, if you want to make it suck a little bit less, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. When you subscribe, if you want notifications, you have to click the notification bell and get the options to get all notifications. And if you want to support me so I can continue to make video game content and criticism, there's a link down below to Patreon, or the Steam Summer Sale is happening right now, so you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist while the games are cheap. You could do that at any time, but now is the perfect time to do that. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.